Hey there, everyone. Zare here.
And this is Lith.
Welcoming you back to 999.
999.
Okay, so last we left off, we woke up on a boat with 8 other people. Shenanigans happened, one of them's dead, and now we're going through a whole bunch of escape the room puzzles.
Fun!
Alright. Would you kindly pick up where we left off? And good evening, Hawk. Welcome to the stream.
Gladly. Hello, Hawk. I'm gonna put on my sultry librarian voice. Also known as mysteriousness. Okay. Junpei and his companions ran out of the casino into a large open room. A room, in fact, where they had been in once before. There was little to surprise them there. They already knew that their next step had to be. The iron gate still stood in place, locked tight, blocking the stairway. In the center of the gate was a keyhole engraved with the Venus symbol. This time, however, Junpei had the Venus key in his pocket. Wasting no time, he pulled it out and shoved it into the keyhole. He turned it. With the distinctive sound of metal on metal, he felt the lock click open.
Alright, let's get this thing open. No problem. Let me help with this one.
Junpei grabbed the handle on the left side, and Seven took the handle on the right. On Junpei's single, they both pushed, and the gate creaked open. Ooh, that is not a creak.
It sounds as though you have opened it. We should be able to reach C deck now, I imagine. Snake, are you gonna be alright? I mean, the stairs. Please, do not do yourself the embarrassment of underestimating me. I would be unlikely to trip, even if I were running backwards. Good to hear. Let's move.
At Seven's words, they leapt onto the stairs and jogged quickly down them. In no time at all, they found themselves on C deck. Junpei ran down the stairs a little farther in hopes of checking on the deck below. When he reached the water, he called back up to Snake and Seven.
Just what I thought. D deck is completely underwater. Just like the bottom of the central staircase.
The surface of the water below was flat, like a mirror. That it had not changed too greatly since they'd last seen it was a great relief. Junpei quickly retraced his steps and headed back to C deck. In front of the stairs were a pair of elevators. They appeared to be identical to the ones from the upper floor. Between them, attached to the wall, was another card reader. And next to that was another strange symbol.
Hey, check it out. It's the symbol for Lotus. What? See? It's got the woman symbol. And then it's got devil horns, right? Yeah, I see it. No two ways about it. That was a pretty good one, kid.
Seven tousled Junpei's hair in what would likely be the friendly manner. Junpei feared his neck might break, even though it was clear Seven had kept his strength in check. Thankfully, Snake interrupted. After Junpei's observation, he'd gone over to examine the card reader.
This is a Mercury symbol. The marks you mistook for horns are a stylized version of the wings and staff of Hermes. Wings and a staff, huh? So she beats you with the staff until you die and go to heaven? Sounds like Lotus, alright.
Seven shook Junpei's head even more vigorously, and the younger man began to feel as though his brain was being jostled about in his skull. He began to feel rather ill.
Unless we can activate this device, I doubt the elevator will function. In other words, we gotta find a key card with a Mercury symbol on it. So I would assume.
They decided to leave the elevators alone for the time being and headed back to the stairs.
Did I get the wrong voice? Sorry. Apparently one of the lines I delivered was Junpei, and not someone else.
Okay. To the left was another hallway. There were a great many doors lining both sides of the hallway. They seemed to stretch on forever, and all three men suddenly felt very small.
Ah, shit. We're not gonna have enough time to check all of these, are we? Maybe we can come back later. Let's check out the other side.
They turned around and went back the way they'd come. To the right of the stairs, another hallway stretched out, reaching deep into the bowels of the ship. After a few moments of moving briskly down the hallway, they emerged into an area roughly the same size and shape as the one at the top of the stairs. On the left side of the room were 4 French doors.
Well, let's open them up.
Junpei nodded and grabbed one closest to him. He gave it a small tug and felt it move. It was unlocked. Thrilled to have found another unlocked door, he threw it open. Junpei didn't know what to make of what he saw. Ew. Oh boy. Interesting. He simply stood, unable to speak. Seven's eyes opened wide and his mouth gaped. After a few long moments, Seven at last managed to speak.
Hey, what is this place?
A massive room stretched out in front of them, more a cavern than a room. Its vastness was oppressive, and it bore down on Seven and Junpei. It was not empty, however. The entire room was filled with lines and lines of beds. They were simple things, little more than pipe and thin mattresses.
Is this a hospital?
He had last been able to put a name to the harsh scent that pervaded the room. The room was full of the clean smell of antiseptic solution. In the center of the room were shelves stacked with medicine and a number of medical devices, the function of which Junpei did not know. More importantly, however, on the back wall of the room were 4 doors. 3 of them were emblazoned with large single-digit numbers, made with thick red paint. The door on the left was labeled 3. The second door from the left had no number, but the third had been given a 7. The door on the right bore an 8. There could be no doubt they were numbered doors. It did strike Junpei as strange, however, that the door between 3 and 7 should be blank. What he wondered could it mean?
Let's take a look at those doors. Yeah, good idea.
The 3 of them treaded their way through the beds toward the back of the room. Upon reaching them, they proceeded to investigate each door in turn, but to no avail.
Yep, locked. Just like I thought. Naturally. After all, there are rules to the nonary game, and to allow these doors to open easily would violate those rules. Unless we can authenticate ourselves with the red, the number doors will. Whoa, check this out!
Suddenly, Seven spoke up, interrupting Snake.
Look at the red. There's nothing on it. Huh? Don't you remember the red back at the main staircase? There wasn't anyone in it. It said vacant on the little screen, remember? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. But this one... there's nothing. Right? Think it's broken? Only one way to find out.
Junpei and the others put their hands on the panel, but nothing happened. The red refused to change. They tried pulling the lever, and still nothing. As they soon discovered, it wasn't the only red on door 8 that seemed to be malfunctioning. The red on door 7 and the red on door 3, none of them worked. What, they wondered, could it mean?
Gotta be broken. Man, that bastard. I didn't think Zero was the kind of guy who'd screw around with something like this. Whoa. Zero's been prepared for everything so far. And you're saying he's gonna make a mistake now? Well, that's the only thing I can think of. This thing ain't working at all.
While Junpei and Seven talked, Snake busied himself with examining the red. After a time, he lowered his hands and spoke. It seems as if some of the internal hardware has been removed. Internal hardware? That is what I said. Take a look at the underside of the red, if you please. Junpei obliged and bent over to look at the underside of the device. A long, thin slit ran along the bottom of it. As he looked harder, he realized it was more of a slot than a slit, and it was clearly meant to accommodate some manner of electrical device. The other two reds were the same. Something had clearly been removed from all three of them. I get it. So the reds aren't working because somebody pulled out their guts. So I assume. But why? And who? I mean, it doesn't really make sense. I have no idea. Why on earth would I know something like that? Just then, they heard the sound of a door opening. The three of them turned and saw Akane. Oh no, Junpei thought, it's June! Crap, me! June! Me! She stopped short, surprised to see them, and was very nearly bowled over by the rest of her companions who were coming through the door behind her. Ace, Santa, Clover, and Lotus all poured out of the door, each of them as surprised as the last to see Junpei, Snake, and Seven. Junpei and Seven were, for the moment, at a loss for words. What are you guys doing? What are you? Nothing. After a moment of silence and surprise, everyone suddenly began to talk, desperate to exchange information. They talked about the rooms they'd been through, and how they ended up in the same place. Of course, none of it was very useful information, but that hardly mattered. They were simply happy to see one another again. Although the level of cheer varied greatly from person to person, each one of them was wearing some manner of a smile. Almost as though they had already forgotten about the death of the ninth man. Though, thought Junpei, perhaps that wasn't it. Perhaps thoughts of his death were what drove them to smile at one another. Not in a morbid or hateful way, no, the ninth man had died. But they were still alive, and that was something to be happy about. A sort of simple, uncomplicated joy. Junpei thought the joy of being alive. Still alive. He felt sorry for the ninth man, but more than anything, Junpei was just happy to be alive. This is bad, though. If the red isn't working, we can't keep going. What about that big hallway? Maybe there's somewhere in there we might be able to go.
No, there's nothing there. The five of us had a quick look. There were a great many rooms, although none of them appeared to have held patients for quite some time. Patients? You mean all those doors are for hospital rooms? Yes. Apparently they had a number of individual rooms, in addition to this large central room.
There was a door down at the end of the hallway, too. but it was locked.
It had one of those solar system mark things on it.
It was the Jupiter symbol.
Jupiter?
I wonder what it means. Confusion seemed to be the consensus.
That reminds me. What's the deal with this big room anyway? What is this thing? This some kind of huge passenger ship?
No one, not even Snake, appeared ready to offer an answer until Seven unexpectedly spoke up.
I bet it's a hospital ship. In fact, it's probably the Gigantic. The Gigantic?
Junpei looked at Seven, shocked both by his knowledge and the apparent identity of their prison. He was not the only one. What's the Gigantic? Seven nodded to Lotus and began to speak.
The Gigantic.
He explained that she had been a sister to the ship Titanic, built in the early 20th century. The Titanic had two sister ships who were identical to one another in nearly every aspect. The Gigantic was said to be one of them. She was initially intended to be a passenger liner like the Titanic, but soon after the ship was launched, the First World War began and she was pressed into duty by British Navy as a hospital ship. Sometime later, the Gigantic was damaged by a German mine in the Aegean Sea? Aegean Sea? Aegean Sea?
Digraphs.
Yeah. She managed to run aground after the incident and consequently was not sunk. What then happened to the Gigantic after her fearful encounter in the Aegean Sea? One theory ran that the man named Lord Gordon purchased her. Lord Gordane, it seemed, had been one of the few survivors of the Titanic tragedy, and that trauma had turned him into an obsessive collector of all things related to the Titanic. As his obsession deepened, he began to desire the Titanic itself. That, of course, was impossible. The Titanic lay at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The Gigantic, however, had not suffered such a dire fate, and she was identical to her sister ship. She caught Lord Gordon's eye.
So you're saying this Lord Gordane bought this ship? Yeah. At least, I think I am. That's impossible. No way we're in some boat that's almost 100 years old.
Pipe down. Pay attention. What? Well, have you got any proof?
Proof?
Proof that this ship is really the Gigantic.
Well,
Sorry, guys, there's a lot of popping in my ears right now.
the ship's got stuff that's like the Titanic and a hospital ship. So I just figured...
Oh, for goodness. Don't tell me that's your only reason.
No, I've got more.
Like?
Well, I mean...
Seven looked around desperately, doing anything to avoid meeting Lotus's piercing stare. He scratched his head for a moment, then gave up. Finally, he opened his mouth.
I don't know.
Lotus sighed and shook her head. I guess your memory isn't back yet, is it?
No, sorry.
Then, almost as if to save Seven from further embarrassment, a bell began to ring from far away. It sounded as though it was the clock at the main stairway. Junpei counted each chime carefully. 10, 11, 12.
It's midnight. Then we've still got 6 hours left, right?
Let's just get moving. Gotta find that hardware the Reds are missing.
That's all well and good, but where are we going to look?
Well, we've already searched the big patient room.
They had been examining the rooms as they talked.
We haven't found anything.
Right.
Well, there's only one thing left to do.
Just one?
Well, not just one. Eh?
Wait a minute! Are you telling me we have to search all of these rooms?
Well, you already checked some of them out before you came here, right? We each checked a single room. It's hard to differentiate the two. We each checked a single room, so... It's 5 rooms in total. Alright then. That's 5 rooms we don't have to search. If we split up, it won't be that bad. If each of us can do 6 rooms apiece, we'll have the other 48 rooms cleared in no time.
There are 48 other rooms? Lotus did not seem excited by the prospect. Seven fidgeted nervously before responding.
Maybe?
After some discussion, the 8 of them decided which rooms to begin with and in what order they would go. Junpei was chosen to search the rooms on the starboard side, moving from fore to aft. They soon departed when they would...
They also determined.
Thank you, sorry. They also determined when they would return to report their findings. The next time to check... the next time the clock sounded the time. I'm sorry, guys. The words are really small. When it did, they would meet back in the large central room full of beds.
Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit.
Thanks.
No, I can't.
No.
I tried.
Alright, I apologize for... What's the incorrect reading in the future? I'm squinting. Okay. Thank you. It's a little easier. If doing their search, any of them were to locate the missing components, they were to yell for the others. If the strategy failed, they returned to discuss their options later. The details decided, they left to begin searching. Out into the hallway they went, each to the rooms they'd been assigned. However... From far away, Junpei heard the bell ring. It did so only once. It was 1 a.m. He jogged through the entrance of the large hospital room to find 6 of the others already there. Ace, Santa, Clover, June, Seven, and Lotus. They had gathered in front of the door number 8. Or perhaps to be accurate, they had gathered in front of the red next to the door number 8. Had one of them found the missing piece?
What happened, guys?
It was June who answered him. Junpei, look! She was pointing at the red. He pushed through the others until he stood in front of it. Immediately he knew what she had meant. The display on the front of the red read vacant. Junpei sighed.
Yeah. Come on, guys, who was it? I thought we were supposed to yell if we found it.
Well... Junpei wondered why she was hesitating. The others looked as confused as June, but kept their mouths shut.
What the hell? What's up with you guys?
They all knew something he didn't, and Junpei wasn't about to leave things that way. Finally, Lotus frowned and spoke. Well, that's the thing. We don't know.
You don't know?
When I got back, it was already like this. There was no one else here. That means I was the first one back, but the missing parts were already back in the red. Junpei looked at the bottom of the red again, just to make sure. The slot that had been opened on the bottom was now covered with metal. Clearly, whatever had been missing had been returned.
What about the other two?
They're the same. Junpei quickly examined the other two boxes. Satisfied that they were also repaired, but still very confused, he returned to the others.
Alright. I just want to be sure here. Nobody has any idea what the hell happened here, right?
Ace and June nodded silently. Seven raised his hands as if to say, "Not me," and Santa just shrugged. Only Clover lowered her head and did nothing.
Huh? Wait a minute.
That was when he noticed.
Where's Snake?
Junpei swept his eyes across the room a second time, but Snake was nowhere to be seen.
Does that mean he found them? I have no idea. There's nothing to suggest it, but nothing to suggest he didn't either.
I don't suppose we'll know until we ask him in person.
Well, whatever he did or didn't do, it's pretty damn late. What the hell is he up to?
Maybe he's lost.
Yeah, well, that seems likely. Dude can't see. I don't know how he gets around in the first place.
Clover raised her hand.
That's impossible.
Suddenly she was shouting. Sorry, I wasn't shouting.
Yeah, my brother's blind, but he's got really great hearing. He can get around us well as anyone can see. So he couldn't get lost. That's impossible.
Clover had started to shake, and the knuckles of her hands had gone white. She spun around before she did, Junpei noticed tears welling up in her eyes.
I'm gonna look for him.
The words were barely out of her mouth when she began to run.
Hey! Hold on, Clover, wait!
Junpei cried out to her, but he was too slow. You're too slow. Sorry. She kept going, and before anyone else could react, she was gone.
Damn it! What should we do now?
Well, the red is working now. No, we're not leaving two people behind. We should go look for them.
Oh man, this ain't good. Oh yes, what an excellent idea. We just wasted a bunch of time looking for some piece of electronic junk. Now let's waste some more by looking for a couple of idiots. Remain here if you feel you must, but there's no time. We've only 5 hours left.
Junpei and the others nodded to one another and took off at a run. In front of the stairs that led to B deck, they decided to split up. They quickly assigned search areas and went their separate ways. So only 2 of them were left. Those 2 were Junpei and June, who had been a few steps behind the others.
Alright, we should go too.
Yes, let's go. But where should we start?
Let's see.
Do.
Your choice.
Really? Oh, man. Let's see. Back to large hospital room. First student in first class cabin. Let's try the first class cabin B. I feel like there was something that we left behind that we didn't examine, and he might have gone to go look.
Well, what about the first class cabin on B deck?
All right, sounds good.
They took off up the stairs at a run. Outside of the first class cabin, they found Clover.
Yes!
She was standing in front of the wall. She was staring at a meaningless point on the wall, her eyes blank. Yeah, Hawk, the safe. I was thinking about that. Talk to her. She's acting weird.
Are you alright?
He did his best to sound friendly, but Clover didn't respond.
Look, I know you're really worried, but,
He could think of no words to say that didn't sound hollow and fake. Junpei hesitated. Clover was so consumed by worry and fear that Junpei feared it would crush her. Her actions didn't surprise him. She had suddenly lost her brother, who she seemed to have been very close to.
Mom.
Her voice was thin and barely audible.
Mom. Mom. I said, leave me alone!
Suddenly she was screaming.
You're so annoying! Just go away and leave me alone! Just looking at you guys is pissing me off! Go away, okay? Just go somewhere else! Stop bothering me!
Junpei was taken aback. Such anger and hate. June's eyes had gone wide with surprise as well.
Why are you still here? Didn't you hear me?
Wow.
Fine, forget it. If you aren't gonna leave, then I'll just...
alright. Let's go, June.
Yeah. They turned and left Clover. As they did, Junpei glanced back over his shoulder to see Clover wiping tears from her face. Clover had driven home the misery of their situation, but Junpei told himself that getting depressed would get him nowhere but depressed. For Clover's sake, they had to find Snake, and fast. He did his best to push away the misery and depression and forced a smile.
So, where do you think we should go next?
The casino?
How about the casino?
Let's go take a look.
They turned and headed off in the hallway to their right at a jog. Before they knew it, they were there. So was Lotus. She was leaning against the wall, examining her nails.
Hey, what do you think you're doing?
She glanced at him, unimpressed. Isn't it obvious? I'm looking for Snake.
I'm just not seeing it.
Really? Maybe you need to look harder. Junpei didn't think that was the problem. Oh, by the way, I've got a proposal for you two. Care to hear it? Okay. What is she going to say?
What is it?
Well, I don't like to beat around the bush, so I'll get right to it. Why don't we team up?
Team up?
What?
Yeah, what? You need me to explain it to you? I'm saying, why don't we go through a numbered door?
Even if we wanted to, that's impossible.
Why?
Junpei's bracelet is number 5, mine is 6, and yours is 8. Our digital route would be 1. But there is no number 1 door in the large hospital room. The only doors that are 3, 7, and 8.
Then we add another person.
Huh? Who?
Oh, sorry. Well, isn't that what? Isn't that easy? 7. She was right. If they added 7, all that math there, then the 4 of them could go through number 8. But
Oh, hold on a sec. What about the other 4?
why don't you add them up? That was simple enough.
The digital route for those 4 would be 1.
That's right.
And you know the number 1 door isn't in the big hospital room, right?
Of course I know that.
No. Are you saying that you'd leave them behind?
Of course not. What kind of woman do you think I am? Once we get off the ship, we could come back and rescue them, couldn't we? Then we wouldn't really be leaving them behind.
Don't try to lie to us. I don't think you'd do anything of the sort.
Really? Why do you think that?
You remember, don't you? We have less than 5 hours left. Even if we manage to escape, there's no way we could come back and rescue them in less than 5 hours.
Well, you never know until you try.
No. You're not thinking this through. Even if we brought 7 with us, we wouldn't be able to get off the ship. The 4 of us couldn't open door 9.
That's right.
It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9.
Yeah, that's right. The digital route for us 4 will be 8, so we'd have to add Ace to make 9.
Right. Unless we bring Ace too, we'll be stuck.
Lotus scratched the back of her ear. Oh, Well, that's unfortunate. She didn't sound particularly bothered by what Junpei said. Nor did she seem particularly surprised.
Well, let's try and find another way, okay? A way to get out of here with all 8 of us.
That's impossible. Are you being serious? You do know that only 5 people at most can go through one of the numbered doors, right? The number 9 isn't going to be an exception to that rule. Regardless, at least 3 people will get left behind.
You're right. It's true.
The moment he said it, Junpei felt a chill run down his spine. It was true. How Lotus could remain Calvier about such a terrifying prospect was beyond him. When they found number 9, they would have to choose which 3 of them would die. Lotus's forehead furrowed. Do you think I could have a moment alone? There are some things I need to think about.
That went well.
Junpei and June turned and began walking away from Lotus. Talking to her had left them feeling ill. Junpei's heart felt heavy and his step sluggish. But he told himself pessimism would get them nowhere.
So positive.
I know. So he forced himself to smile and turned to June.
Let's just forget on finding Snake for now, okay?
Yeah, let's just leave.
Let's just focus on finding Snake for now, okay? One of these things is not like Junpei said.
Yes, you're right. We can think about the other things later.
Junpei nodded.
Alright, where should we go next?
We've
This
already
one-
been to that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go to the hallway with the rooms.
It's... typo. Let's go back downstairs and check out that hallway with all the doors.
They took off at a run down the stairs. Ahead of them, further down the hallway, they spotted Ace.
Hey!
Sorry.
Hey! Snake!
That's still 7.
Where are you?
It's better.
Just give him like
Answer me if you're there!
Yeah, give him a gritty, maybe soldier-like sounding voice or something. I don't know. He sounds like a guy who's been through a lot. Junpei paused. What did he want to do? Run to Ace. You gotta at least tell him what the other lady talked about, right? With June in tow, Junpei jogged up to Ace. Hearing their footsteps, he turned to greet them.
Ah, hello there.
There you go, that sounds cool.
Snake is, well, that's obvious, isn't it? I assume you haven't found him yet either?
Junpei nodded.
I really wonder where he could have gone.
Well, wherever he's disappeared to, we must find him as quickly as we can, for Clover's sake.
Right.
I absolutely adore that pose and animation.
It's
It's so cute. I have to admit, it's very fluid sprite animation. It's really good. June's face looked kind of enraptured.
By the way, do you think Clover and Snake are really siblings?
What the hell is... Why is it so hard for him to believe that? Sure, they each have different...
Why would you say that?
Why would you say that? The question seems somehow odd to Junpei.
Why? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? They don't look alike at all.
Oh, that means nothing, asshole. Ace looked at him for a moment and then spoke.
Yes. You know, now that you mention it, they don't.
They could be adopted, they could be foster siblings, there's all kinds of reasons they could be siblings.
Still, there are a great many siblings who do not look like one another.
Exactly.
It certainly isn't rare.
Junpei wasn't sure why, or even if he was seeing what he thought he was, but he could have sworn Ace's face tightened as he spoke.
At any rate, we really must find Snake as soon as possible. The clock is ticking. We really can't afford to waste any time. Very well. Let's get back to the search, shall we?
They could even be half-siblings, they could be siblings from two different marriages, there's all kinds of ways they could be siblings, dude.
You can leave this area to me.
Alright. Let's go, Jimpy.
At June's urging, they left. They found themselves back at the stairs, but Junpei's mind was in turmoil. There was so much to think about, but no, it would have to be put aside for now. As Ace had said, finding Snake was their top priority. Junpei did his best to clear his mind. Alright, where should we go next?
There's only one place.
One last place.
Why don't we go back to the big hospital room?
Okay. Let's go then.
They turned and headed back toward the large hospital room. On their way to the large hospital room, Junpei and June noticed Santa standing next to door number 3. Junpei paused. What should he do? Talk to him. Junpei and June walked up to Santa.
What are you doing? What, can't you tell? I'm checking out the red.
Why? Is there something bothering you?
What, it's not bothering you?
Huh?
The guts of this red. Why wouldn't you wonder who the hell put it back in there?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm curious too, but...
Who do you think did it?
Santa's eyes narrowed as he looked at June. She shook her head.
I don't know.
Well, what about you, Junpei? Who do you think fixed this thing for us?
Someone other than the 8 of them?
Is that what you're going with?
I mean, there's no guarantee that they're the only ones on the ship. It's possible.
Maybe there's someone else on this ship with us. You mean someone hiding here? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just an idea.
I mean, there's no guarantee that things will go the way you want them to. Sometimes for something this elaborate, having an accomplice is really not that far-fetched.
And you're saying this mystery person fixed the Reds? Yeah. Why? That's, I don't know.
They're an accomplice, duh. Santa shoved his hands into his pockets and cracked his knuckles.
Seems unlikely.
No, it's not.
Why? I don't know. Just a feeling.
Oh, bull!
Hard to believe Zero would bring in a secret 10th player.
No, but he could bring in an accomplice.
I mean, the name of the game is the Nonary game, for Christ's sake. You know what Nonary means, right? It means 9. No, that's not what I meant. I mean more like someone who's been living here for a long time.
What?
Or someone who, stayed here. Seriously? That's even more ridiculous.
I have to admit, that does sound ridiculous, just about the staying part, but really, come on, you guys.
Why do you think Zero would leave them alone?
Jinbei furrowed his brow.
So, in other words, one of us is the person who fixed the red.
Santa grinned.
Bingo.
Ugh.
We have a winner.
Well, he's not entirely wrong with his theory, but the fact that the guy could have an accomplice is also another possibility. They haven't even thought of that yet.
But if that's true, then the person who did it doesn't want the rest of us to know. They fixed the red. Yeah. But why? No idea. If they come clean on that, it means we'd find out something else. Something bad. Something bad? Dunno. But whatever it is, it's gotta be worth hiding. Of course, it could have something to do with Snake's disappearance. You think maybe they did something to Snake? It's not out of the question.
Junpei stared at Santa. There was something about him that made Junpei wary. At first he assumed the other man wasn't terribly clever, but Junpei was beginning to think he would need to reevaluate that assessment. When Santa spoke again, his voice was quiet.
Thanks for the cue in advance.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, game.
Look, if you trust anybody in this game, you're gonna lose. You've gotta be careful. The person you trust the most could turn out to be the one who stabs you in the back.
Dun dun dun. With that depressing suggestion, he turned and quietly walked away. Junpei and June looked at one another and smiled awkwardly. Where should they go next? Oh.
I guess we're pretty much done.
Yeah, we've done everything. They looked everywhere they could think of, but Snake was nowhere to be found. Dun, dun, dun. Maybe he's hiding under a bed. Just fucking with you. Lotus looked around at 6 frustrated faces and spoke. We can't keep looking for Snake. Wherever he is, it's not here. We need to get moving. Wait, you managed to look everywhere you could think of, but actually search none of them. It's true. It's true. Like
We
it's
just
like
went around talking to people.
yeah. It's like they were like in front of every door. We didn't actually get to go in any place.
We're there for moral support.
Junpei couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Snake seemed to have completely disappeared. There was no point to wasting any more time. The others seemed to have similar thoughts, but they stayed quiet. Finally, Seven spoke.
We don't got a choice. Lotus is right. We're not gonna find Snake. There's a problem, though. Gotta figure out who's gonna go through which door.
Yes. I have a proposal. She walked back and forth across the floor, her heels clicking against the wood. Finally, she stopped. Why don't we decide on one person to sacrifice? Wow!
Sacrifice?
Well, perhaps that's a bit harsh of a word, but yes. You've all figured it out by now, haven't you? We can't all make it through those doors. If we split into 2 teams of 4 and 3 people respectively, then 3 people will be left behind. If we split into 2 teams of 5 and 2 people respectively, then 2 people will be left behind. But if we split into 2 groups of 3 and leave 1 person out, then only 1 person will be left behind. Leaving behind 3 people with 2 teams of 4 and 3. Wow. That's... wow. Oh, come on. Don't...
Oh, fair enough.
It wasn't pleasant, but she was right. There wasn't any way that the numbers worked out if one group was 4 and the other group would always have a digital route that didn't match the door. When Seven spoke, his voice was strained.
And you're saying we gotta decide who's gonna stay behind?
Yes, we do. Given our circumstances, it's logically and morally the best solution. If the other 6 are to survive, then one person has to sacrifice themselves.
No, that's too cruel.
What's so cruel about it?
Just to sacrifice someone like that?
Then what's your plan? Maybe we should sacrifice 2 people instead of just 1?
That's not what I meant. We shouldn't sacrifice anyone.
I told you, that's impossible. Wake up!
Whoa, calm down, you two.
Santa stepped between June and Lotus.
Look, what Lotus is trying to say is that you should aim to bring the greatest amount of happiness to the greatest amount of people, right?
Exactly. That's how democracy works. And for that reason, I think the only fair way to decide who'll be sacrificed is through a vote. What do you think?
No, that's terrible.
I'm not asking you. Shut up. What about you, Santa?
Me? Well, I agree, I guess.
All right. That's 1 vote for.
We're voting to vote right now.
Counting mine, that's 2. 7?
Can't say I agree with you, but we don't exactly have a choice. If we don't do something, we're all gonna die.
Glad to see you get it. If I can get 1 more vote, then it's decided. What about you, Clover? Clover had moved away from the group and was sitting on one of the beds. Her whole body drooped. Junpei didn't know if she'd heard Lotus's proposal. Lotus walked over to Clover and gently laid her hand on her shoulder. Your brother has to be behind one of the numbered doors. We searched everywhere, but we didn't find him. Doesn't that mean he has to have gone through one of them somehow? Clover slowly lifted her face. Let's go look for him together, okay? If we sacrifice 1 person, then we can go look for him. You agree with me, right? Clover nodded once. Wow. The motion carries. Slice fox. Lotus spun around and walked toward Junpei. Now let's start a vote too.
That won't be necessary.
Ace had barely spoken for Lotus's entire speech, and everyone jumped a little. 6 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. He didn't seem to notice or even care.
I will stay. That should solve our problem, yes?
Yup.
Ace, what are you saying? No, you can't do that. That won't solve anything.
June's voice shook, and she looked around desperate for someone to agree with her. Ace simply looked at her.
June, I'm afraid you may have misunderstood me. I said I would stay, but I never said I would sacrifice myself.
Huh?
I trust you, each and every one of you. I believe you'll come back for me. Whoa. That's optimistic. And then there's just nuts. Those doors only go one way. You go in, you don't come out. If we go through them, you won't be able to return, correct? Yeah. True. But that will not be the case once you've escaped from the ship. What? Please, I beg you. Once you've escaped, come back and rescue me. Ideally, within the time limit Zero has given us.
No, that's ridiculous! There's no way we could get back in time!
Finally, Junpei could hold his tongue no longer.
We've only got 5 hours left. We don't even know where the hell we are! How on earth are we gonna find someone to come and rescue you?
Then perhaps you would prefer to stay instead of me.
Or perhaps you would be willing to leave June behind.
Ace's voice was dignified and without a hint of cruelty or malice. Junpei had no rebuttal.
You see, there's no other choice. And I see we've come to our conclusion. Go on.
I see a problem with this. Even if they do vote or whatever, right? They can't just pick anyone randomly, right? If they still want to get out of the ship, they have to have the right numbers to get out anyway. So it's not like you can just, I don't like that person. But it turns out that they had the number you needed to go through the last door.
Yeah, we'll see what happens then. Don't worry yourselves about me. Go. Quickly!
Junpei stood frozen by indecision, unable to move. June bit her lips so hard that Junpei feared she would break the skin. Santa stood against the wall, calm and aloof. Yeah. Seven tore his beanie from his head and turned it over anxiously in his hands. Clover stared at Ace with an expression Junpei was unable to decipher. Lotus's attitude, however, was indifferent from the others. Good. Let's accept his kind offer, then. She smiled, her eyes bright. Ace answered with a smile of his own.
Good. I think this is the best for me. Perhaps I'll be able to take a nap.
No.
Perhaps at my age, I get tired so easily these days.
As he spoke, Ace lowered himself down to the floor next to one of the beds. You're not going to sit on it? Okay. From somewhere deep in the ship, Junpei suddenly heard the screeching of metal on metal. It was almost as if the ship were screaming. Would it really hold until their time limit was up? Already, D-Deck was flooded. In the sudden silence, the only sound was the sad metal wail of the ship. Unsurprisingly, it was Lotus who spoke first. Well, what are you waiting for? We're wasting time. Why don't we hurry it up? As if a spell had been broken, the others all began to talk at once.
You're right. We should get going. That's all we can do right now.
7.
Seriously. Honestly, I was kind of getting sick of listening to you guys talk.
You too, Santa? I have to find my brother. Wait, all of you! Let's just calm down and think about this. There has to be a way to get everyone out. There has to be! Right? Junpei, say something!
Yeah, let's think. There's gotta be another way.
His words sounded hollow and fake.
Fine! Forget about it.
I'll figure it out on my own. She spun around and ran towards Ace. He had slumped down next to the bed when June grabbed his arm and pulled.
Come on, Ace. Please stand up. You can't give up yet. We just have to sit down together and think about this. We'll figure out a way that we can all get out of here.
Then it happened.
What?
Ace fell forward. Sorry.
It's his time.
Ace fell forward. He slumped over onto the wooden floor, his body folded in a half-like boxer out cold.
Ace!
June cried out and dropped to her knees beside him. She put her arm around his neck and did her best to lift him up.
What happened, Ace? Say something!
She shook him frantically. His eyes fluttered open.
I'm all right.
His voice was weak and slightly slurred.
How are you? Fine.
This.
He held out his left arm and slowly opened his hand. What the? It was a syringe and a small vial. The vial was empty. It had only recently been emptied. A few drops clung to the sides. There was a label tapped to the side of the container. It read...
Soporil Beta.
Okay. Soporil Beta. Junpei had no idea what it meant or what kind of medicine it might be.
Did you do this?
It's just anesthetic. I'll be fine.
Anesthetic?
I found it earlier while we were searching the hospital rooms. I thought it might be useful later. I didn't think I'd be using it on myself.
Why did you do this?
Did I tell you? I'd like to take a nap. I really am very tired.
Junpei knew that wasn't why he'd done it. Ace had injected himself with anesthetic to forestall Junpei and Jum's attempts to bring him along. If he couldn't move, there was nothing they could do. He'd injected himself so they would be forced to leave him behind.
Ace!
Is there something you want to say? I'd just like to sleep a little. Could you keep it down?
No! Don't, Ace! Don't fall asleep!
You feel warm. So comfortable. I think I'll have a nice dream.
Ace's eyelids drooped further and further, almost as though he were dying.
Ace! Ace!
He shook his shoulder. She shook his shoulder again and again, but this time he didn't respond. Only the gentle rising and falling of his chest told them he was alive. Junpei was relieved to see he was in fact still breathing. He lifted Ace up off the floor and laid him on the bed he'd been leaning against. When Junpei turned around, Lotus gave him a look of pity. Well, we really didn't have a choice now. We can't let his sacrifice go to waste. Right? She wasn't feeling any remorse. Junpei was sure of that. Still, he had no grounds upon which to oppose her. It felt wrong, but he had to agree. Then suddenly Santa spoke.
Yeah, but we're not done choosing yet, are we?
Huh? What do you mean?
Well, we haven't decided who's going in what door.
Ah, yes, that's true.
Well, enough of this screwing around. Let's decide. You first, Lotus. Which door do you want?
Can she even pick? I want door number 8. It's the same number as my bracelet number.
Got it. You're 8. Your next 7. Which one do you want?
I'll take 7. Can't get along with that old lady.
What? What did you just say? Her face distorted by rage, Lotus took a step forward towards 7. He threw up his hands and made a face like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Ugh! You're going to get it next time. She shot him a glare that would have melted steel, then turned and stalked off.
Alright, who's next?
Santa's gaze moved across the 3 people left. Finally, they stopped on Junpei.
Junpei, which door do you want?
Is nobody calculating what it's going to take to get through those doors yet?
Well, you may as well ask nicely first and then do the calculations after. Otherwise, you're trying to work with 8 numbers up in the air. Well, 7 numbers. 6.
Okay.
6 numbers.
Okay, at last, Junpei's mind has already been made up.
Which door do we want?
We're 5, right?
Yep.
Alright, so... Oh... Let's go with door number 7, because I want to see if 7's memory comes back. Little by little, you know?
Following 7. I think I'm gonna go with door 7. Okay, 7 it is. Yeah. Alright then. That means June's gotta go through 8.
What? Why? See what I mean? Santa grimaced and muttered angrily to himself, but finally began to explain.
If the 6 of us are gonna keep going without leaving anyone behind, there's only 3 ways we can do it.
Plan A. Go through 7 with 3, 5, 8, and go through 8 with 4, 6, 7. Plan B. Go through 7 with 4, 5, 7, and go through 8 with 3, 6, 8. See what I mean? Go through 7 with 3, 6, 7, and go through 8 with 4, 5, 8. See what I mean?
And that's it. Those are our only options. In other words, 3 and 4 and 7 and 8 can never go through the same doors. You get it now?
As Santa finished, June looked over at Junpei, tears welling up at the corners of her eyes.
Oh no. You saying we aren't going to see each other again for a long time?
Junpei felt as June did. He wanted to be at her side through whatever trials they were preparing to face. But he knew if they were to survive, he had to swallow his feelings. In order for the 6 of them to move forward, he and June would have to be separated. He looked at June. He was scared to lose her, but he swallowed, steeled his resolve, and did his best to smile.
Hey, come on. You make it sound like we're never gonna see each other again.
Knock on wood.
We got split up, but only for a while. This is just like when we went to the 4 and 5 doors, remember?
Body excluded. Well, wait a minute. Never mind.
We got split up then, too, but we all met back up. I'll bet 7 and 8 are just like that.
You mean they're connected somewhere?
Yeah. Probably.
Probably. She didn't sound very hopeful. It was 7 that interjected.
I'm sure they're gonna connect somewhere.
Why? What makes you think so?
If they don't connect, neither team can get through door 9. In other words, the game would end right here. Zero's been on top of this shit so far. I don't think he'd blow it now. I'm damn sure that son of a bitch wants us to have his fun as long as possible. It's not gonna end this game until we get through the 9 door.
June said nothing. Her tears were gone, but her eyes were still sad as they looked at Junpei. He met them, and with what reassurance he could manage, laid his hand gently on her shoulder.
Everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna see each other again.
I love the deliveries there.
I promise.
June bit her lip and gave him an almost imperceptible nod.
Yes. Promise?
Her voice was barely above a whisper. I didn't know that. Santa's voice shattered the moment.
You guys are done, right?
He stretched and continued.
Anyway, that's pretty much it.
Your face.
Clover and I will go into separate... Let me try that again. Clover and I will go into separate groups. I figure I'll take 8, and Clover can take 7.
Hawk. Everything's gonna be fine. There are 2 bodies, 1 dead, 1 unconscious. You only been through one set of rooms so far. Also 1 missing.
Any problems with that, Clover?
Clover looked away and was silent for a moment.
Whatever.
It was more of a dismissal than an agreement, but Santa didn't seem to care.
Alright, we're ready to go then. Let's move.
At Santa's command, the grooms split and headed to their respective doors. Clover, 7, and Junpei walked toward door 7. Santa, Lotus, and June headed for door 8. For a long moment, they stood in front of the door. 7 took a deep breath.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
Dun, dun. The door had opened. A narrow hallway stretched out before them. Seven and Clover leapt through the door. The moment they did, their bracelets beat. The detonators in the bracelets had been activated. Junpei stepped forward to follow them. But as he was about to step over the threshold, he stopped. He looked to his right, toward door 8. June stood there, a mirror image of Junpei. She turned and looked toward him. Their eyes met. They nodded. Their farewell took almost 1.5 seconds. When someone took hold of Junpei's arms and hauled him bodily through the door. He heard the sound of the numbered door slam shut behind him. His bracelets gave a cold electronic beep.
Only 81 seconds left. No time to waste, guys. Let's get moving.
Seven led the way down the hallway. Junpei and Clover followed him as fast as they could. After what seemed like far more than 81 seconds, they reached the end of the hall. To the left of the wooden door, they found the dead. There was no time to rest or catch their breath. All three slammed their hands in quick succession over the scanner panel on the dead. Here we go. Sorry. Still trying to catch his breath, Seven leaned heavily against the wall.
It stopped. It stopped.
His smile seemed forced and a little crooked.
This is the second time we've gone through one of these numbered doors, but you never really get used to it.
He stood up straight, no longer out of breath, and wiped some sweat from his head and neck. Clover smirked at him.
I would have thought a guy your size would have bigger balls than that.
What?
Whoa.
What the hell did you just say?
Naughty little girl.
Say it again. I dare you.
You have no...
You want to die?
I'd like to see you try.
I don't think she's quite that smug at this point in time, but...
She'd have to be.
Fucking brat. Alright, let's go.
Are you serious?
Hey, calm down, guys! This isn't the time for this!
No, don't stop him. I want to see a grown man throw down with a girl with pigtails.
It's not gonna do us any good.
He was seriously gonna... What was he planning to do?
Ugh.
Gosh.
Junpei sighed. Sometimes he wondered if the doors and puzzles were really the greatest challenge they faced.
Wait here for a minute, alright?
No, don't leave them alone.
I'm gonna go see if there are any other doors.
They didn't respond, but Junpei wasn't in the mood for a conversation anyway. First, he examined the inner part of the numbered door. It was, of course, shut tight. On the left was a single, short hallway that terminated almost immediately at a thick iron wall. Junpei doubted the wall could be moved. At last he gave up and returned to Seven, who was tapping lightly on the wooden floor.
This door's the only option we've got, right?
Yeah, looks like it.
There was a metal plaque bolted above the door. It read, Operating Room. If it was to be believed, the room on the other side of the door was an operating room. Something about it made Junpei feel nervous.
Well, there's no point in standing around. Might as well go in and see what's waiting for us.
Seven grabbed the brass knob and slowly opened the door. The creak of the hinge sounded like the groan of an old woman. A chill snaked its way down Junpei's spine. Quickly, he gathered what courage he could and took the first step into the room. Seven followed, with Clover right behind him. Part of the room was just past the door was obscured by a screen. Clover's curiosity got the better of her, and she darted past Junpei to peer around the screen. Her scream nearly blew out Junpei's eardrums. He and Seven ran towards Clover to see what had frightened her. They rounded the screen, and the cause of her outburst was immediately clear.
What the hell is this?
What, is it a dummy?
Is this a corpse?
Looks like a dummy. It was something that looked kind of like a human, lying across some sort of bed. No, not a bed. An operating table. The table sat on rusty steel lift, and a cluster of bright operating lights shone down from the ceiling. Slowly they approached. Yeah, it's a dummy!
You're far away, you can't see that.
Okay. I beg to differ. Slowly they approached. As they got closer to the body, it became clear that it wasn't a body at all.
What the hell? That's just a huge doll or something.
A doll?
Clover didn't look terribly comforted. Slowly she approached the operating table and looked as intently as possible from as far away as possible at the thing.
Phew.
Junpei could see her relax.
You're right. It's only a doll. Man, it really scared me.
She heaved a great sigh of relief and wiped a few drops of sweat from her forehead. Seven smirked.
Well, guess it would have been weird if you actually had any balls.
Shut it. Don't you start with me, fatty.
Oh, what's this? You want a piece of me, short stuff?
Yeah, bring it, you whale.
Hey guys, not again, okay?
Oh my god.
Seriously, knock it off!
Yeah. Junpei sighed and shook his head.
Anyway, it looks like he's got something the two of you could stand to have a little more of. I'm talking about a heart.
Oh, come on. I thought it was patience.
Oh, this? You mean on his chest?
Yeah.
It was set a little higher than normal for a human body, but from the shape of the organ, there could be no doubt that it was a heart.
Not a very functional one.
Why would there be a heart in a doll?
I don't think it's just a doll.
You think maybe it's like a medical mannequin or something?
Or maybe it's got more personal uses.
Seven's grin was more than a little perverted. Clover glared at him.
Anyway, how about we take a look around this place? Let's go!
Okay.
Sure thing.
More heartbeat snapshots.
Da-da!
Let's do this.
Seek a way out! Okay.
Something that I was thinking about from last time. I'm betting that that final music sheet we saw, we didn't check it out, but it was probably a ceramic sheet that we put behind the glass ones.
Okay.
That's why things were suddenly working in that room. Yep.
Hey! I wonder what this thing is. It says kg on the display. Kilograms. That's right.
Hold on, she's American.
Oh no!
You think maybe it's a scale?
So we're curious about it, but we're not going to look at it.
Apparently.
These dolls are really kind of creepy, you know.
Hey, it says something here.
John?
Doe?
You think that's the doll's name?
Maybe?
This thing is creepy.
Wonder why it's on the bed.
A lot of organs to harvest.
Hmm.
Internal organ, specifically a lung. Medical mannequin with its guts showing.
Ew. Gross.
Hey, Junpei. There's a slit in this thing's chest.
Yeah, sure is.
There's something in there. Maybe we can get it out. Ugh. Damn it! Sticking thing won't budge. It's stuck.
Well, I guess you can't use force on this one then. We need something small that can fit into that little hole.
Okay, so find the small thing.
A pen, a tool.
Oh, look, small things.
Look at all the little small things.
A scalpel that's not rusty.
Seems like it was put here for a reason, huh?
Yep.
You think it's telling us to cut something?
Yeah, I do. Like this. I can't click on the top screen. What am I doing? Let's just see if any of these other things are interesting.
None of this other stuff looks useful.
Well, that sells that.
All right.
Yeah, it's all pretty rusty.
Can we take it? Yeah,
Like this?
yeah.
Okay, I guess they want something else. Well, we still haven't collected all of the things yet.
True.
Look for all of the things.
Okay, so we can go around the curtain like this. Oh no, not more doors.
It's
locked.
locked.
We can probably find the key if we just look somewhere. Let's look somewhere else.
So there's only a back. No more doors!
No.
Looks like it's locked.
Guess we're gonna need a key for this one. Because a bunch of organs are really what we need right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Junpei, where are you going?
That's the door we came through.
Yeah.
The only thing out there is the numbered door.
I'm pretty sure I don't need to tell you that the numbered door is a one-way deal.
I gotta pee.
So,
You're saying there's no point in going back there, huh? And they're nodding. Awesome. It's not my fault it's so easy to get turned around in this game. Medicines.
Whole bunch of
A
bottles.
whole bunch of bottles on the shelves. They all look like medicine. Well, labels, and they're all big medical words that I don't understand. There's a lot of different kinds of medication. It's hard to tell them apart.
The drawer is empty.
Yeah, nothing useful there.
What is that? Is it a butt?
No, it's a chest.
Ew, that's gross.
this is the chest. It's a woman's chest. The heart's gone, but it's pretty hot.
If that kind of thing turns you on, Seven, you're a real creep.
Creepo.
Creepo. Maybe you're supposed to heat something like that gauze to kill the bacteria. There's a boiling thingy over there.
There's nothing on the lid or in the drawers.
That's a bit odd for this girl to say. Then again, I'm judging her by her appearance. Maybe she's into medical stuff.
She is 18.
What's this thing? It's got these short iron legs.
Maybe she learned it in science lab or something.
Maybe it's a heater.
There's nothing inside it.
Another medical mannequin.
From the looks of it, this one's a chick.
She has a name, too. Lucy.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
Junpei.
Yeah.
Lucy.
Poor thing. Looks like Miss Lucy only has a head and a left arm.
Maybe we're supposed to gather all her parts.
That's right.
This bed doesn't look very comfortable.
Maybe want to put her chest on it?
Okay, guess we gotta get them all first.
Some kind of...
device attached to this bed. It says KG on the panel. Is this a scale?
Mmm.
More stuff. This looks obvious.
Oh.
Kosher forceps.
Are those scissors? They look kind of funny.
No, it's probably a pair of kosher forceps.
You know about
I also
hidden...
don't know if it's kosher, cocker, kosher.
Wait.
We'll just go with kosher.
So she knows about heating gauze and killing bacteria, but she doesn't know what what these things are?
You heat a lot of things to kill bacteria.
Specifically gauze, apparently?
Well, you could see someone heating gauze during a doctor's visit, but usually when the forceps coming out, you're in an operation.
Sometimes not. You can find them both in a science lab.
Yeah, science lab maybe.
Surgeons use them during operations. You can hold blood vessels shut and keep tissue out of the way. You can use it to pull stuff out of small holes or something like that.
There we go.
Ah!
Because the scalpel's no good. That's just surgical tools. Okay, nothing. Creepy medical mannequin is lying on the bed. Apparently his name is John. How can we take you out? Yay, I got it.
We got a lung.
Gone?
Really, Clover? I expected more from you.
Oh, like you could do better.
How do I get this?
There's a chest and a lung.
Chest bone is not connected to the chest bone. And I meant to say lung for one of those, but whoops. Just walking around with a lung in my hands. Oh wait, maybe I can cut the heart out.
Do you think the old operating tables look like this?
I have no idea. John's just lying there. Okay, no stabbing John.
Maybe there's something in the chest. Can you combine the chest with the scalpel?
I can try, I guess. Nope.
Nah. Go around the corner. No. Oh. Ah.
Okay, I'm not picking it with a scalpel.
Nope.
Let's take with a scalpel and forceps. They're all rusty though. Don't think they'll be really useful.
Thanks, Evan.
Huh? Some sort of lid on this thing.
Ah.
Why don't you try opening it?
Can't. There's no handle. Can't get under it with my nails either.
Maybe the scalpel. Okay. Come on. Maybe we could put the chest on it. Again. Or the lung. Chest or the lung. How about if we gather the body part? Can we really... Oh, what about the lid, like the other thing?
Oops.
Is there a lid on the front of it? Yeah, that. Something that appears to be a scale attached to the bed. Damn it. Ah! I am seriously stumped.
doors are blocked off.
Is there a way to...
Nothing interesting about the curtains.
Just a wooden partition. Nothing special about it.
Nothing among the bottles in the cabinet? I suppose we could
Well, we
take...
checked before and there wasn't anything.
Yeah.
That's a lot of medicine.
Wonder if one of these is a laxative.
Yeah, it sounds kind of gross, but I'm pretty sure every one of us has had the same idea. If we had some laxatives, maybe we could crap out the bombs Zero put in us. Unfortunately,
Damn it. I don't know what medicine does what here.
Maybe we could just play Operation and open our guts.
not with this rusty scalpel, we won't.
Yeah. No, it's the only unrusty one, right? Isn't that what they said was distinct about it?
You say that, but then we take a look here.
It looks rusty, or at least it looks old. It's a scalpel.
Could probably cut something soft with it.
Told ya.
Oh, hold on. I got it. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's try cutting this organ with a scalpel.
Ta-da! Yay!
We got a key to the organ.
Yay! Have you searched the chest and the lung? Well, apparently we can't cut the chest, but the lung worked, Hawk. Yes.
Cool, it's unlocked.
Hooray! We did it!
We got more space to cover.
Hooray.
Yay!
Ooh, think you can hang your coat here? A bunch of hooks.
Hooks!
Ooh,
Let's see if... Huh. Piece of paper.
a chart to be exact.
What's this? This some kind of medical record?
Uh-huh. Medical records. Ooh.
Okay, so I actually have to do some reading.
Medical record right there.
Oh, the medical record.
Ooh.
Ah, this gives us weights.
Mmm.
Okay, nothing else there. Not a hidden drawer.
Cabinet with a drawer in it.
Ah,
What the hell are you doing? Don't you want to get out of here?
but I'm tired.
There's one.
Oh. Okay.
There's a ray of light going through the beaker.
And it's hitting the thing on the right. I found a beaker.
No, you didn't. I did.
There are 4 different lights, each one a different color. Red, white, blue, and yellow.
Purple.
Purple, sorry. This thing reacts to something, and then when the light lights up. Ooh. And it's locked. Won't
it's
even
locked. It won't even budge.
Do you think this is the exit?
Oh, there we go. Nope.
It won't open. Looks like it's locked. There's a red plate on it. Do you think that means something?
Okay. Yeah, the white light was lit, so I think if we get those lights to change color, we're gonna open up these cabinets.
Sink. Doctors and nurses probably wash their hands here before an operation. Nothing suspicious here.
Do 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 do. One of the cool things about white light, if you split it, you get different colors.
Let's see, do I have anything? I don't think the chest is gonna be liquefied.
Bottles.
Let's see if there's anything neat here.
Damn. It's not opening. Locked, of course. Blue plate on here seems a little suspicious, though.
Damn! It's not opening. Won't even budge. Got this purple plate on it, too.
Bottles to pour into the beaker to make colors.
Is there a
Possibly.
third door?
We also have a sink, too. You got water.
Sink. Doesn't look suspicious.
We weren't able to pick up the beaker, were we?
I doubt this will open the other door, but we can check. Awesome! It's unlocked!
Nice. Ooh. Oh boy.
This thing won't open. Is it locked?
No, it just hates you.
You probably need to put in a passcode. And it hates you. I mean, geez. They've even got a keypad on there. How much more obvious can you get?
You can only enter 3 numbers. E is for enter, C is for clear. Once you input the number, press E. If you mess up, press C. Let's give it a shot.
Nah. And we all blow up.
Well, I just gotta try it
What about the piece of papers or the bottles?
over 700 more times.
Ooh, blue liquid.
It looks like there's something inside the bottle.
Well, we tried pouring some out the cap.
Can't see any reason why not.
What's that? It's bright blue. Do you think it's alien blood?
Where the hell did you get that from?
Then what do you think it is, Seven?
I don't know. Some sort of special bath soap?
Ugh, what a boring guess.
And that one? Red liquid.
It looks like there's something inside the bottle.
Why don't you try pouring some out into the cap?
Repeat.
Can't see any reason why not.
What's that? It's bright red. Do you think it's blood?
No, blood's thicker than that.
Then what is it?
Beats me.
It's cherry flavor.
Note on top of the table.
Iron, salt, and water. Ooh, 1, 2, and 3.
That would be a very useful thing to have up in the chat right now.
Iron, one.
Carbon. Okay.
Ooh.
Carbon dioxide, ammonia, and ethanol.
1 second.
Okay, so carbon dioxide. Wait, salt is sodium chloride. Iron is iron. Water is hydrogen dioxide or dihydrogen monoxide. What am I saying? So none of those overlap. Carbon dioxide. We don't have any carbon here.
Wait, I'll write it down. Salt.
Oh,
What do
salt
you-
is 2 and water is 3.
What do you think this is a hint for?
Maybe it's got something to do with this box.
Salt, water. There's 3. Carbon.
Okay, Hawk's on it.
Okay.
Thank you, Hawk.
Thank you.
Oh, look at the first line. Maybe question mark represents a number.
Yep.
Something stinks.
Is it coming from this bottle? Is it ammonia? It says NH3. It's ammonia.
Yep.
Well, of course that stinks. It's ammonia.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Hawk.
C5H5OH is ethanol. We're probably going to get a hint in here, too.
Oh, good stuff. Let's go for a drink.
What are you talking about?
Talking about that bottle. It says C2H5OH, right?
Apparently it's C2.
Wikipedia to the rescue.
It's ethanol.
That's right. It's also known as ethyl alcohol. It's pretty much what booze is made of.
So,
Eggs.
you gonna drink it?
Don't. You will die.
Nah, I won't. Might say that's what it is on the label, but there could be anything in here.
But even if it was in there, you should not drink that high of a percentage. Jeebus Christ.
C2 incorrect copy. Good to know.
Hey, Junpei! There's dihydrogen monoxide in the shelf.
Why don't you just say water?
Because I want...
So, you're too slow. I made that joke already. And flubbed it, but, you know. What's this?
It's
Looks like a can with a spray nozzle.
Ooh.
It says CO2.
So, it's a can filled with carbon dioxide. Carbon monoxide would be bad.
Junpei, there's a bottle of iron powder on the shelf.
How do you know it's iron?
The label says Fe. Fe stands for iron, right? Hey, Junpei, do you think there are any slugs on this ship?
Huh?
Well, if there are, I was thinking we could put salt on them.
What's she pointing at? The label states NaCl. Salt, huh?
Do you think Seven will shrivel up if we put it on him?
Hey, you say something?
Okay, so is there a scale?
Ethanol.
Or actually, no, the scale wouldn't be useful. So we've got all the components here. Wait.
What?
So iron is in the top.
Mm-hmm.
Salt is here. Water is over here. That's 1, 2, 3. So could it be then that this is 4 carbon dioxide and ammonia is 5. Let's try that. So carbon dioxide, ammonia, ethanol. Okay, so I'm gonna try 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Let's give it a shot.
Okay, so the hint was after it. Oops.
Nope.
Nope. Well, there's only 6 permutations of these numbers, so.
Atoms?
Oh!
Oh.
Iron has 1, NaCl has 2, hydrogen dioxide has, or dihydrogen monoxide has 3.
4.
3, 4, 9.
Aha!
You got it!
Way to go, Hawk!
And our reward is arm.
Yeah! And wait, there's something else in there.
Looked like a heart.
It's the right arm of the body. It's kind of creepy.
Fake heart.
A heart? This thing is super creepy.
This ain't good for the heart.
You think we should go back?
Yeah, I think that's probably best.
Clover nodded and left. Junpei was about to follow her when he realized that Seven wasn't following suit.
Hey, 7, what's up?
Oh, well,
He looked up at Junpei distractedly, then back down at the brown bottle he held cupped in his large hands.
What's that?
In response, Seven tossed the bottle gently to Junpei. He caught it, twisted it around to read the label.
Ethylene diamine tartrate?
EDT. It's tartaric ethylene diamine.
What kind of medicine is that?
It's not medicine. think it's an industrial strength detergent.
Why would they have something like that here?
Well, probably to clean stuff up.
Clean what up?
Fuck if I know.
A lot of things.
Still. Looks like it's cleaned my brain up.
Junpei looked up from the bottle.
You remember something?
Seven nodded, slowly, and spoke.
Well, I remember a story about EDT. Happened about 50 years ago. There was this factory somewhere in America making big old EDT crystals. They were making it to sell as industrial strength cleaner, like I told you.
I agree with you,
Well,
Hawk.
Hawk says, it's a freaking hospital operating room. What do you think would need cleaning up?
But
A year after the factory started up, something strange started happening with the crystals they were building. Water molecules started attaching themselves to the EDT crystals. This made them into a sort of mutation of the original crystals called hydrate. Once the crystals turned into a hydrate, though, it was useless as a cleaner. The factory had to just dump the crystals. As a hydrate, they were useless. But it didn't end there. After that day, the same thing started happening in EDT factories everywhere, even the ones nowhere near the first American factory. They'd been making crystals the same way, with the same materials and the same equipment and environment, but now, all of a sudden, every single crystal they formed turned into a hydrate. In fact, ever since that day, no factory anywhere has been able to make a pure EDT crystal. Even in EDT research done years before, they'd never gotten a hydrate. But after it happened, at the first factory, it just spread.
it was like, man, how do you say it?
You mean like it was infected with a virus or something?
Seven shook his head.
No, not like that. It spread like wildfire. Showed up in labs that were completely isolated from the rest of the world. It even started happening to crystals that were completely sealed up. Doesn't seem like it could have been a result of this stuff coming in contact with other samples.
Then...
Well, I guess it was some sort of information. Like, the crystals were transmitting this information all across the world somehow.
what information?
How to make a new crystal. Something had to tell the stuff how to do it, right? Like it just whispered to the EDT in the tank. Hey, if you do this, you can take in water molecules.
Come on, man. It's just... Hey, who is this someone, anyway?
Someone you can't see. Someone who exists all over the world.
You mean, like, a god?
Or maybe the devil.
Seven grinned. As Junpei was trying to figure out what on earth he was going to say next, Clover's shrill voice pierced the room.
Hey! What are you two doing over there? Stop wasting time and get over here!
Okay. We're coming.
Jeez!
Seven looked at Junpei.
Yeah, so, anyway, that's the story. Might be useful someday. Don't forget it.
What a cryptic remark. He turned and left the room. Junpei was left behind to ponder what he just heard. Information being transmitted invisibly. Could such a thing really happen?
Well, thinking about that crap isn't going to help me right now. We need to figure out how to get the hell out of here first.
He took a deep breath and tried to clear his mind and followed after Seven.
I don't think we've got all the parts yet.
No, we're missing legs, aren't we?
Let's take a look. We got chest, heart, arm. We have more, don't we? Oh, but we have this liquid here.
That's
So,
true.
Maybe I'll find it there. Okay, I don't know what color I have, but good enough for me.
There we go.
Hey, it turned red.
Forget about that. Didn't you hear that just now?
A door opened. A leg!
This will give us a leg up in the puzzle.
The right foot of the medical mannequin. This is a woman's foot, but damn. Doesn't look hot at all.
Have you got a thing for feet, Seven?
No! That's crazy!
You sure acting kind of shady.
Oops. Right, I can't click on the top screen.
I'm thinking we're gonna have to use the blue liquid, and then we gotta use them both.
Oops. Ah. There we go.
Go.
It's blue now.
I think I heard another noise.
Ta-dam!
It's the left foot of the mannequin. Do you think I'm better?
What?
Do you think my legs are skinnier?
Oh my gosh. I think we should do you think we have to combine the liquids in the menu? Or can we pour them both in?
Probably do both because they wouldn't let you get purple and then never be able to get blue and red again.
Yeah. There we go.
Excellent, we hit the right shade of purple.
Yes.
I get it. You combine the red liquid and the blue liquid to make a purple one.
Good job, Junpei. The purple light came on. I heard it unlock. I'm sure it's unlocked. Locker with the purple plate has gotta be unlocked.
Alright, let's see what happened.
And if it's not unlocked, then I look really stupid right now. You know what happens when things are unlocked? They're unlocked. This is a really big nose.
It's no nose. It's a space station. Or stomach.
Oh, a stomach.
Oh, wow.
May as well check these out because we're going to get rid of them soon.
Ooh. Be so awesome if the door is still locked. I agree, Hawk.
Okay, so we've got, what, 4/5 of a human being in our hands?
Mm-hmm. Old hard bed.
Okay, so we collected the 6 parts of the medical mannequin. So the ones we've got must be for Lucy, right?
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Well, I say we give Lucy her parts back. Any objections?
Nope.
Agreed.
Alright, let's get started. Combine!
Yay.
Hey, nothing happened.
Because she's
That's odd.
heavier.
Maybe it's the wrong weight?
Wait.
Yeah, well, you know how there's a scale on the side of the bed? Maybe. We need to get the scale to a specific number.
True.
How are we gonna do that?
I think we're supposed to swap her body parts with John's.
Oh.
Let's give it a shot.
Operating instructions. The screen below. Touching the part you want to switch out. Lucy to John. Hey, honey, want to give me a leg or a hand? Okay, I have to go to check the chart too.
Yeah, but I can't access my items here.
Urgh.
No dice. I think if we knew the weight of each part, we could figure it out. So 51.3 and 53.2. That works.
Okay.
Let's take a picture.
Okay. Oh, come on.
So I figure the hearts are just gonna swap. 53.2. Oh, I got them backwards. Just swap all the parts now. Happy sex change.
Hooray!
Hey, Junpei, I just heard something. Came from John's operating table. Better check it out.
Dun-dun.
Hey, Junpei, look at the scale.
The scale.
Huh? Look on the scale.
Ta-da!
It's a
Hey, it
key!
Oh, I get it. Must have opened because we matched John's weight to what's on the chart.
Oh.
So that's a Jupiter key.
Yeah.
And we did end up mixing it. What?
Is it... That's the...
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just gonna go back. Other
Okay.
way.
I don't see another door.
Do we have to go out around the corner? Yeah, out that way. The preparation room. Right?
Oh, there was a door.
That way.
It's locked. It won't open.
Huh.
Use the key. You ninny.
Hey, hold on.
Junpei stopped, about to put the key into the doorknob.
What's up?
Where's Clover?
What the...
Huh?
Junpei turned around. Clover was nowhere to be seen.
God damn it! Where the hell did she go? Okay, just hold on a minute. I'll go get her.
Sure thing.
Junpei left Seven at the door and headed back to the operating room. He found her, standing next to the operating table. She was staring at the mannequin.
Hey, Clover. What's wrong? Come on, let's get out of here.
She didn't respond. If she hadn't been standing up and breathing, Junpei might have thought she was dead. And
What are
also
you doing?
her eyes are blinking.
You want to come back here and say goodbye to John?
Wasn't the best joke, but it was something, an attempt to lighten the mood. Clover didn't laugh. She stood stock still and said nothing.
Hey, Clover, can you hear me?
Perhaps it was something he said, or perhaps it was something else. Suddenly her mouth opened, and she whispered in a dry, dead voice.
Should be burning in hell.
My brother might be dead.
Huh?
That's why we couldn't find him. If he's dead, I'm gonna be next.
Suddenly the operating room felt very, very cold.
What are you talking about? What's wrong with you?
He gave her a small shake, but she still didn't respond. The silence grew heavier.
Let's just get out of here. We've got the key. Let's use it. That cool with you?
Clover nodded, almost imperceptibly.
Imperceptibly.
Still, Junpei was glad to see she was at least somewhat responsive. He put his hand on her shoulder and guided her to the preparation room. As they arrived at the door, she suddenly stopped.
I'm sorry.
What was this? Why was she suddenly apologizing? Junpei wasn't sure what to make of her. Was she emotionally unstable because her brother had gone missing?
I'm really sorry. Just forget everything I told you, okay? Don't worry about it. Really, I mean it.
How could anyone pretend to not hear something like that? But something told him this wasn't the time to press the issue. Junpei gave her the warmest, kindest smile he could manage.
Alright.
Thank you.
Her smile was weak. It was almost painful to watch. I was about to say, and then 7 was gone.
What the hell took you guys so long?
7 looked up as they walked into the room, clearly irritated.
Playing doctor in there or something?
Oh, God!
Maybe.
What?
Jealous?
Oh, gosh! 7 avoided answering the question. They stood in front of the door. Junpei took out the Jupiter key.
Alright, I'm gonna open it now. Is that cool?
Don't need to keep asking. Just do it, alright?
Fine then.
And then he shouted, Jupiter! It was a key.
Combine!
He felt it unlock. The door opened with a soft, melancholy creak. Beyond it lay a simple, white hallway. There was no fanfare or confetti. Obviously, there was no one there to applaud them. They simply walked through the door. That was it.
Alright, let's get going.
Hey man, what's up with you? You're so serious, you know? Did you sound more happy? You know, you're a little excited.
Not really.
Playing doctor was not fun. Junpei turned away from 7 and took his first step into the simple white hallway.
It's lupus.
My brother might be dead. I'm going to be next. Clover had told him only a few minutes before that her brother was probably dead and she was likely to follow him. How could he pretend to be happy after hearing something like that?
I found it!
We're free!
Da 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 da!
They left the operating room. The hallway took them around several corners and past several doors, but they were all locked. Until at last, the final door was hidden in a corner of the hall. Junpei grabbed the handle. As he made to push it open, a voice stopped him. The voice came from behind him and belonged to neither 7 nor Clover.
Junpei!
He spun around. He saw someone running toward him from the other end of the hallway. There were 3 people coming toward Junpei and his companions. Santa, Lotus, and June. They pulled up short in front of Junpei, breathing hard.
Whoa. What the hell is this?
What are you doing here?
What? But we didn't...
Before he could finish, Clover spoke.
Hey guys, could you take a look at this?
She was standing near the end of the small hallway that branched off to the right. The rest of them ran over to her, curious as to what she'd found. There was something on the wall at the end of the hallway. Whoa!
Map of the ship's interior.
It said C deck in the upper left corner. It was, they assumed, a map to the floor they were on. Door 7 and Door 8, the map confirmed that they already knew. Both doors eventually led to the hallway where they had found themselves. In fact...
Yeah, isn't that what I said? We're gonna be split permanently till we find door 9. Might get separated for a little while. We'll see each other again. Otherwise, we won't be able to open door 9. That's how the nonary game works.
Junpei looked at the map of the ship's interior again. As he looked more closely, his surprise and excitement gave way to weariness. One by one, the others saw what he'd seen. They moved as one for the door. He pulled the map of the ship's interior off the wall and put it in his pocket, and followed the others. How big is that map? The 6 of them stood in front of the door, arrayed in a semicircle. Santa stepped forward, took hold of the door, and spoke without looking back at the other 5.
Ready? I'm gonna open it.
Slowly, all 5 nodded their silent assent. With a deep breath, Santa threw open the door. They poured through the doorway and into the room. Even without looking around, each one of them knew where they were. They were just where the map had said they would be. The same room they had been in not so very long ago. The tremendous central hospital room with empty beds from wall to wall. Oh boy.
I see. I believe I understand what you're saying. The 6 of you split into 2 teams and went through doors 7 and 8. You solved the puzzles in the operating room and the laboratory, and then met one another in the hallway after opening your respective locked doors.
He looked like anyone might after only just waking up, but it seemed that his brain was working as well as ever. He had managed to grasp, summarize, and understand each team's report.
At any rate, I feel a bit silly for my little show of altruism. I'm sure you'll be back for me. I did hope you would come back, but I confess I didn't think you'd be back so soon.
Ace shook his head with a rueful smile.
Well, we saw each other again, and we ain't dead, so I say that's good enough.
7 smiled.
Anyway, I say we get out of this creepy old place. We found the key we need.
The key?
Isn't that what I just said? Talking about the Jupiter key. Found it in the operating room. Right, Junpei?
Junpei nodded. Ah, the solar system keys. We found a couple more in the laboratory and the kitchen. Here, the Earth key and the Saturn key card. With that, she pressed them into Junpei's hand. The metal key had the Earth symbol on it, and the card key had the Saturn symbol on it. I might lose them. It's probably better if you hold on to them. That way, it won't be my fault if we get lost.
To be fair, she doesn't exactly have pockets.
Yeah, at least not that you can see now.
Well, aside from one.
Junpei felt slightly less than honored. As a group, they now had 3 keys that had not been used. The Jupiter key, which had been found in the operating room. The Earth key, which Lotus had just handed to Junpei. The Saturn key card, which Lotus had just handed to Junpei. Junpei tucked the new keys into his pocket. June spoke up.
The Jupiter key is supposed to be for the door at the end of that long, straight hallway, right?
Yeah. If the map's right, then it connects to the central staircase. Then next to the stairs...
Wait,
They were the first words anyone had heard out of Clover in quite some time. Her face suggested they weren't going to be very happy words.
what about door 3?
Look, you saw the map, right? It's the same as 7 and 8. It just leads us back to the big hospital room. There's no point to seeing what's on the other side of that door.
There is a point. At least, there is for me.
There were tears in her eyes, but she glared at 7 as hard as she could, just the same. She looked very much like a frightened puppy. There wasn't a man alive who could have resisted those eyes. 7 looked everywhere in the room except at Clover and muttered and coughed apologies under his breath.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Snake might be on the other side of door 3.
Clover nodded once. The next person to speak was Ace.
Very well. I'll be coming with you then. I've had a nice long rest. I think it's time I was up and about again.
So 7, You'll help me, won't you? Huh? Me?
Junpei did the calculations quickly in his head. Uh-huh. It looked like 7 was doing them too. At last, he gave up.
Damn. Well, I guess that's how it's gonna be. So I'm going with you, huh? Yes, you are. Alright, let's get moving.
Don't make this lion bite you. And so it was decided that Clover, Ace, and 7 would discover what lay beyond door 3.
Okay, we're heading out.
Careful. Oh, be careful.
Whoa, didn't think I'd be hearing that from you, Lotus.
Don't let it go to your head. I'd be in trouble if the 3 of you bought it. The rest of us can't open door 9.
Ah, the truth comes out.
7 nodded as if the answer made much more sense and pulled the lever on the red.
Okay, let's go.
The door opened, Ace, Clover, and 7 jumped through it. 6, 7, 8. After exactly 9 seconds, the door closed noisily. Alright, we should get moving too.
Huh?
Get moving?
Where are we going?
Everyone except Lotus seemed rather confused. Well, it would be a waste of time to just sit around, would it? Let me explain. Lots of explaining.
I get it. We're gonna see if we can get anywhere interesting with the Jupiter key.
Yes. If we're lucky, we might find Snake. They were at the end of the hallway, lying by individual hospital rooms. The Jupiter symbol was engraved on the keyhole. All right, Junpei, open it if you please.
Yeah, on it.
Junpei pulled the Jupiter key out of his pocket and slid into the keyhole. He twisted. And it broke. Sorry. With a nice, sharp click, he felt the door unlock.
Alright. Ready, guys?
Junpei's companions nodded. He nodded back, then slowly and quietly opened the door. Inside was exactly what he expected to see from the map of the ship's interior. They were in the tremendous hall, almost like a ballroom, with a massive central staircase.
Great. Back to the beginning. You sure this is a good idea? What do you mean? Well, we already searched every inch of this room, didn't we? Asking if there's any reason we came back here.
No idea.
You know, that's a good question.
Junpei looked off into the distance thoughtfully. Lotus sighed and shook her head. I can't believe this. You guys followed me here, but you didn't even know why? Junpei, you've got the solar system keys, don't you?
It's like a Phoenix Wright menu. Of course there's a reason versus no idea. We lost points with the judge on that one.
Yep, he did. He pulled them out. The Saturn key card. The Earth key card. The Earth key. Junpei didn't see what they had to do with anything, though. Both he and Santa were completely lost.
Because we found the doors down here.
Fortunately, June took pity on them.
Don't you remember the elevator? On C deck, where we are now, there was a big elevator behind the stairs, remember? And next to the elevator, there was a card reader with the Saturn symbol on it. and on A deck on the door to the left. There was a keyhole with the Earth symbol on it, I think. So the 2 keys that Junpei has...
Let's use the elevator and the door on A deck. Huh.
Yes, that's right. June smiled, pleased with herself. So did Santa.
Alright, I got it. Let's get started then. When you say we split into 2 teams.
2 teams.
Lotus and I will search the Earth one, so you 2 can search Saturn, alright? Sounds good.
Saturn is the death planet. Junpei handed the Earth key to Santa. They decided that their initial search should be brief, only 10 minutes. They'd meet back near the staircase once they were done. Junpei and June headed for the elevators. Sure enough, there was a card reader bolted to the wall next to the left elevator. He lined up the Saturn key card and swiped it through the reader. A light on the upper left corner blinked to life.
Great. Looks like it's working now.
Alright. Now how do I call the elevator?
There was a single button on the right of the elevator door. On the button was the upside-down triangle, the universal symbol for down. There didn't appear to be an up button. Junpei pushed it. Didn't have much of a choice. Whoa.
It opened. Look, Junpei!
June's voice was excited, but Junpei could hear a twinge of anxiety.
Sweet! It opened. Let's get going.
He grinned at June and stepped toward the open door. As he was about to set foot in, he felt a hand on his arm.
Wait.
Huh?
I'm not really, I just, oh gosh.
Junpei was at something of a loss. What could she possibly be so frightened of? She knows we're gonna drown. What could June be afraid of being locked alone with the pool?
There's only one answer.
They could only go down. Oh, what the heck? After a little thought, Junpei decided she made herself being locked in such a small space with the boy. Really? Really, Zare? Come on. In a way, it was kind of cute. Very demure, you could say, he thought. Still, even though it wasn't exactly roomy in the elevator, they weren't going to be pressed up against each other. Oh my god. At least they didn't have to be. Still, it was making her nervous. Junpei couldn't help but think of how innocent she was.
Come on, let's go.
Again, he stepped toward the elevator. And again, he felt himself restrained.
I said, wait a minute!
Why?
Aren't you afraid, Junpei?
Afraid of what?
Well, I've never, you know.
She'd never been in an elevator with a man alone before? Even so, she still seemed awfully alarmed.
I might get wet.
What?
Down there, I get soaking wet.
I don't think that's the right tone.
Oh, God!
Well, I mean, of course you will. That's the way it works. I've never heard of anyone getting soaking wet somewhere else.
Oh my... This is why you picked it.
That's true.
Oh my...
You don't mind?
Mind what?
We sound like Clover for a second.
Getting wet.
Well, I don't know. I think I probably, like it.
Gosh, Junpei, you're so brave!
Really? I kind of think any guy would do the same thing, you know? What happens, happens, right? If you get the chance, you just gotta go for it. That's what a man's supposed to do, I guess.
You're so cool, Junpei. I really admire you.
That doesn't really seem like the sort of thing you ought to admire someone for.
I'm really scared.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you've never done it before.
Yes. So I don't think I'll be able to last very long, and then it'll be over.
Over?
Yes. I'll go to heaven.
Heaven?
I can't. It feels kind of like you're floating in space, and your mind gets all fuzzy, like when you pass out. At least that's what I've heard from people who've experienced it.
Yes, I've heard that too. Although I don't think the same thing happens to guys.
What?
Huh?
But it would happen to men too, wouldn't it? It would happen to everyone. Once it gets into your body, the same thing happens to everyone.
Well, I mean, usually it doesn't go inside the man. I mean, generally.
Yes, it does. Well, eventually it will. It's not like you really have a choice. Your body will force you to swallow some of it eventually.
What are you trying to do to me?
Just a second. Okay. Nothing. I'm not going to do anything to you. I'm just saying that's what happens. It's a psychological reaction to when you're experiencing.
What? Was that really how it happened? It occurred to Junpei that perhaps that was how it worked. Perhaps he'd been mistaken all these years. Had he misunderstood life so gravely? The thought terrified him. June seemed to be entirely oblivious to Junpei's mounting confusion and terror.
I know most men probably have larger lungs, but even then, I don't think you could hold your breath for 20 or even 10 minutes. Eventually, you'd have to breathe, and then the water would get into your lungs. Once that happens, your body won't be able to get any oxygen, and you'll start to feel that floaty feeling as you pass out.
Finally, Junpei understood. He understood what June was trying to say and why she was so scared.
Yeah, you're right. He wouldn't last very long.
See? She was afraid that the only elevator button pointed down. That meant, of course, that the elevator wouldn't go any higher than the floor they were on. And as he thought about it, Junpei realized he hadn't seen elevators on A or B decks near the central staircase. All of which meant that the elevator could only convey them to the lower decks. And the floor below, the one they were on, D deck, should be completely submerged. That meant...
Hey, wait a minute. This elevator came up from somewhere under us, right?
Well, yes, it did. It didn't open right away after you pressed the button. There was a motor noise, like it was moving, and then it opened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes?
So take a look inside.
Junpei jerked his head toward the interior of the elevator.
It's not wet at all, is it? The walls and even the floor are totally dry.
Oh, you're right, they are.
She looked around the elevator, slightly embarrassed.
Well, let's test it.
Test it?
Yeah, watch this.
Jubei put one foot in the elevator and bent around the corner of the door until he could see the floor buttons. There were only two, E and C. He pushed E and jumped out of the elevator. The door slid shut, and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down.
So clever.
Ooh. A few moments later, they heard the sound of the elevator door grinding open several floors below. Junpei nodded to June and pressed the elevator button again. A few moments later, the elevator turned. Aha! The door slid open, and just as Junpei had expected, there was no water to be found.
See?
Junpei couldn't resist puffing out his chest a little bit. June, however, still looked confused. What does that mean? How can the E deck be safe if D deck is full of water?
Well, here's what I think. The elevator shaft in E deck must be watertight and separated from wherever the ship's being punctured. Here, let me show you.
He pulled out his notebook and pen and sketched out a rough illustration. I see. So that's why the ship hasn't sunk. The shape of the inside keeps it from filling with water?
Yeah, I think that's what's going on.
Junpei continued talking as he closed the notebook and slipped it back into his pocket. This guy's got big pockets, considering all the stuff he's carrying.
So, I'm gonna go down and check it out. You stay here, alright?
But
Come on, just do it, alright?
He gave June's shoulder a reassuring squeeze, then hopped onto the elevator. He pushed the E button, and the door began to close.
I've made a terrible mistake.
Oh, yes, you have. June looked worried, her eyes darting back and forth as she was trying to make a decision, when suddenly...
I'm coming with you.
Huh?
At the last possible moment, June dashed forward, turning sideways just in time to slip through the gap between the closing doors. Junpei slammed his finger against the open button, but it was too late. The door had shut. He and June were in the elevator, and it was headed down to E deck. He was so surprised by June that he didn't even have time to think about what awaited him on E deck. The elevator stopped, and the door slid open. They stepped off onto the floor outside the elevator. Nothing seemed especially unusual. No fish going about their fishy business or jellyfish floating lazily through the water. There was, however, a blowfish, or at least something that looked very much like one. June's cheeks were puffed out and her mouth a tiny, intense frown.
Oh, knock it off. It's just like I thought. This part hasn't flooded. Come on, just look around. There's no water here.
June looked around nervously, then
Popped up from underneath us.
exhaled.
You're right. It's not flooded at all.
See?
But there's a whole lot of water.
Yeah, right on top of us.
What's going to happen if the ceiling breaks?
Junpei thought about that for a moment.
Well, we'd probably get really wet up there.
Huh?
At any rate, we should probably go back as soon as we can once we're done looking around down here. Otis and Santa may already be back.
Okay. Good idea.
Junpei glanced around the room they'd found themselves in. The first thing he noticed was a set of thick iron doors. Iron
Bars.
bars. Meh. Lots of little thin doors. They ran the length of the room, separating the left elevator from the right one.
Well, we can't go over there.
Right.
Then perhaps... In the corner of the room that housed the elevators, Junpei found an opening. He walked up to it and stuck his head around the corner. And it was cut off, sorry. A long, straight hallway stretched out in front of him.
That door at the end of the hallway. There's something written on it.
Yeah. Let's go have a look.
It looks like an upside-down 9. Junpei and June set off down the hallway at a brisk clip, somewhere between a run and a jog. Before long, they found themselves in front of the door. On it was a number written in bright red paint. 6.
I knew it.
This is a number door.
And indeed, there was a red bolted to the wall next to the door. Of course, with only 2 people, there wasn't much they could do with it.
Alright, let's head back.
Yes.
Junpei and June turned and headed back to C deck. On their way back, Junpei noticed a map on the wall.
We're just rolling in maps.
As it turned out, it was burnt. A map of the ship's interior for E deck. He probably stuck it into his other pocket.
Huh. So you guys found door 1.
They met up with Santa and Lotus, who had explained what they found. Apparently, there was another numbered door on A deck, just like the one on E deck, beyond the door that the Earth Key opened. According to Santa and Lotus, there was a 1 on the door. All told, they had discovered 2 new doors, the 6 door and the 1 door. It is interesting that E deck wasn't flooded. Lotus was quiet for a moment, lost in thought. She just spoke!
No, she spoke, was lost in thought for a moment, and then spoke again.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, it's you.
Well, we don't really know if all of E-Deck is safe. We only checked the area around the elevator.
Even so, it's still very interesting.
You said the 6 door was there, right?
Yes.
And that means Zero planned all this out, even the sinking. That would have meant some pretty serious remodeling of the ship's interior.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah. I wonder how long it took. I can't even imagine how much it must have cost.
Would have been a ton, that's for sure. Well, that does go along with what Ace was saying. The most reasonable explanation would be that this was done by some organization with access to a whole lot of cash.
Yes, it does make sense. That thought made them all go quiet for a moment. June bit her lip while Lotus sighed softly to herself, and Santa cracked a stiff neck and stared off into the distance at nothing.
I don't think it's a very good idea to stay here.
June looked at Junpei with large, pleading eyes.
Yeah, you're right. Ace and his team might be back already.
Well, Junpei and I should be able to open door 1. Huh? Sorry.
Huh? You guys leaving me behind?
Just kidding. Alright, let's go. Lotus words were all the impetus they needed. Back to the large hospital room they went. The moment they stepped inside, a tremendous voice echoed across the room.
Hey! Where the hell did you guys go?
It was 7. Ace was right behind him, and Clover was behind Ace, although she seemed to be hanging back. It looked as though there was something strange about them. 7 had the look of a man who'd seen a ghost, Ace was just as pale, and Clover looked as though she was only moments from passing out entirely. For a long moment, they simply stood there, looking at one another. Junpei looked around nervously, waiting for someone else to speak. No one did. He looked at Seven.
What happened?
The hell kind of question is that?
Seven was trying very hard to be angry, but something had shaken him hard. His shoulders were trembling, his voice was strained.
Snake is...
Seven couldn't finish. He just looked away, his face twisted by Junpei wasn't sure what. Instead, Ace spoke. Took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and spoke.
Snake is... dead.
He died. Just as the 9th man did.
Ooh. It was as if all the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. Junpei felt his heartbeat quicken, and he realized he was having trouble breathing. He could feel cold sweat beating on his forehead and neck. June, Santa, and Lotus looked the way he felt. All three were frozen in place, their faces white.
Oh my god. That's not true, is it?
We should make sure.
Yeah, right. We should.
They nodded to one another and headed for the number 3 door.
Wait! Not that way!
They stopped short and turned to look at Seven. He was pointing at the door with no number.
Stuck a screwdriver in there to keep the door from closing all the way. It's not locked, so you can go in that way.
Where is he?
The shower room, on the left side of the hallway. I put a broom in there too, to keep the door open.
We can get in without going through the numbered door, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Their new destination clear, Junpei and his companions headed for the door with no number. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the metal door on the left wall. It hadn't been open when they'd been through before. But now, just as Seven had said, there was a broomstick between the door and the frame, keeping it open. They looked at it for a moment, then stepped inside. Ugh, it smells horrible. Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Santa pinched his nose shut.
Yeah, this is pretty awful. I feel like I'm gonna puke.
It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. A hideous smell filled the air, so thick they could almost taste it. It was sour. It smelled of fish, feces, and burnt meat. It worked its way through Junpei's nose, down his throat, pounded against the entrance to his stomach. He put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what was little in his stomach where it belonged. They didn't have to wonder where the body was. There was blood everywhere, a few arms of the splatter reaching towards them as they walked through the door. All one had to do was follow the many radial arms to their source. The body itself was hidden behind the divider.
June, you should stay here.
But
Please, just do me a favor, okay? Alright?
He didn't give her a chance to say no. He put his hand on her shoulder as if to shove her into the ground like a tent pole, turned and walked toward the end of the divider. It felt like it took an eternity for him to get there. Santa and Lotus followed, timid and nervous as a pair of children. Eventually they reached the divider. They looked at one another and nodded slowly. Junpei put his hand on the divider and peered around the corner. For a moment he forgot to breathe. He felt his heart collapse in his chest like an empty cigarette carton, and time froze. He knew in that instant that he would take the image before him to the grave. It was what was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Chunks of flesh torn from the body sat in the blood like tiny islands in a great red sea. A vast, ragged hole had been torn in the torso, and what remained of his intestines spilled out of it like fresh spaghetti. Smaller chunks of meat had splattered against the wall and become stuck there as they dried. Globules of glowish fat had left trails like tiny slugs as gravity pulled them down the wall, even as they dried to it.
Just like Ace said.
Xander's voice was strained. Junpei suspected he was holding down some vomit of his own.
Just like the ninth man. The detonator in his bracelet set off the bomb in his gut.
It looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful. His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, exposing the painfully white bone of his ulna. His bracelet lay next to him. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the display, which lay on the ground in pieces. Half of his head had simply collapsed. The blood coating almost made it look like a raw pizza dough covered in tomato sauce. His clothes, too, were covered in blood. The burgundy dye, the white shirt, the jacket with the yellow piping, and the gray slacks. They were all familiar to Junpei. No mistake about that. It's Snake. Lotus's voice was unnaturally deep and strained, and Junpei heard it catch in her throat. The squeal of tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl.
So, let's take a moment to absorb what's happened. And then story time.
Okay.
So, that scene directly before this is one of the most infamous scenes of this game, and I think you can tell why.
Yeah.
And, man, I just found it so amusing, I decided that I should share it with someone. So I looked up on GameFAQs and found a script of the entire game. Mm-hmm. And I sent it over to a friend to read. Told her to read this section. Apparently I should have told her to stop because she didn't. And she got into that part. She wasn't very happy with me. She had to swear off food for a little while.
Wow. That was... wow. Oh, it was amusing, though. I had a hard time keeping character just because it was so funny. Oh, okay.
So I think you'll appreciate that I did that for us. Because the mood whiplash is just something you have to experience.
That was incredible. Yes, it was great. I love a lovely moment of levity before gore.
Yep. Okay. Curling teeth.
Okay, yes. It sounded like the noise of a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human should. It was Clover. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly onto her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces.
Snake was probably murdered. Chances are he was killed the same way the ninth man was.
Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say.
Sorry, I should have been more quiet.
There were 4 other people in the room with Junpei and Seven. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. Seven looked at one of them and each one of them in turn and continued.
It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it. First, the killers got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3. Then they shoved him into it, alone, and waited 9 seconds for the door to shut. Once that door shut, it was over for Snake, but he didn't give up. He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good. He probably ran into the shower room looking for the dead. It was a small chance, but it wasn't like he had anything to lose. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The detonator's only deactivated if everybody who authenticated when they went in uses the dead. And then 81 seconds after he was shoved in, that happened.
I see. So that's what you meant by killers, huh? You need at least 3 people to open one of the numbered doors, including Snake.
But wouldn't they have died too?
If they didn't enter, they wouldn't.
Oh.
That's how the Ninth Man died and no one else went with him.
Ah. Okay.
It wouldn't open for Snake and a single killer.
Exactly. That means we're looking at multiple perps here.
Junpei crossed his arms and grunted.
Well, just in case, I want to make sure. Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed?
We all split up to look for the parts for the Reds, I think. Right after that was when we noticed he was gone.
And that means none of us have alibis. We were all off searching the rooms we've been assigned, looking for those parts.
Yeah. That means anybody could be a killer.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
June seemed shocked.
How can you say one of us is a killer so casually?
Actually, I'm saying 2 of us. Well, not just one of us. If I'm right, then at least 2 of us are murderers.
There you go.
Why don't you calm down a bit, Seven? What are you going to gain by being so suspicious? That's what Zero wants, you know. What Zero wants? Exactly. This game was set up by Zero, wasn't it? Any game has a winner and loser. Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are the losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for that victory.
Then you're saying that Zero is trying to pit us, or trying to split us up by making us fight each other.
Yes. That is why we can't let ourselves fall prey to suspicion. We have to trust one another and form a strong bond of friendship. Otherwise, we'll end up ensnared by Zero's manipulations.
Then, does that mean that the person who killed Snake...
Yes, almost certainly Zero himself. If there's anyone we should doubt, it should be Zero. He masterminded this game and kidnapped all of us. Doesn't it seem reasonable that he would have killed Snake as well?
Junpei hadn't really considered that. If Zero had killed Snake, then Zero was on the ship with them. Zero was on the ship with them? Of course. Makes sense. Of course he was. That was obvious. Zero was somewhere on the ship, but Junpei had no idea where. Junpei mumbled to himself, lost in thought.
Where could Zero be hiding?
Suddenly, everyone went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Junpei could feel it crawling across his back and around his throat. That's possible, Hawk. He could have left since the murder, but in the mind of a serial killer, they kind of want their work to go off without a hitch. So if something went wrong, they at least it would make sense if he was at least somewhere nearby where he could edit things if they tried to maybe get the best of his plan. Again, he heard the ghosting, moaning noise. And moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. It was Clover. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was a cold monotone.
I think Zero is one of us.
Ooh. Every human body in the room froze. The only sound was the what was the muffled rustling of breath. Eyes darted from face to face. One of those faces was the face of their jailer. But who? Junpei? Said. Well, that is possible. It's true.
But it's not going to be great for morale. Are you sure you want to go with that?
True. Let's say that's crazy for now. Keep it to ourselves.
That's crazy! Isn't this ship going to sink in a few hours? If Zero was here with us, he'd be putting himself in danger.
And technically, you know what? That's not covering up. He's both, you know? He could totally be one of us, and that's crazy.
Why the hell would he do something like that?
He's already crazy enough to do all this.
There's no motive.
Oh yeah, there's plenty actually. Self-insertion for serial killers? That's a total win. Clover looked up at Junpei and her face fell.
You don't believe me?
Her eyes were so pitiful. The moment Junpei's met them, he felt his heart tighten. He didn't think that what he said was wrong, but perhaps the way he said it had been. He'd been too insensitive. Clover had just lost her brother. His death would have been bad enough, but she'd also seen the blasted wreck of his body. Junpei barely knew him, and the sight had been enough to make him sick. What Clover had felt, he couldn't begin to imagine. In the mental state she must have been in, it was understandable that she would look at those around her with suspicion. She felt everyone was against her. The least Junpei could have done was try to understand what she was feeling. See, we should have picked the other one. He felt ashamed of what he said. Perhaps, he thought, he should apologize. But before an apology could begin...
Clover, I understand what you're feeling. You don't feel that you can trust any of us.
Ace had beaten Junpei to the punch. As he spoke to Clover, his face was calm and friendly.
But you have to understand. The more we distrust one another, the further we fall into our true foe's trap. -1 point on our social link. Our social link has been reversed.
Oh no!
Zero was the one who did these horrible things to your brother. Do you want to let yourself be manipulated by someone who would do such a horrible thing?
Clover didn't answer. She didn't even look at Ace. The whole time her eyes were on Junpei. He could feel Clover's eyes boring into him. They were the color of a deep winter lake. Junpei saw no suspicion in them, only sadness. Then, in that horrible silence...
The clock. It tolls.
They heard a bell begin to ring. It was the clock at the central staircase.
3 a.m.
And that means we have 3 hours left.
Then we need to move. Now. 7, Clover. I know how you feel, but you do understand that, right now, it's important we trust one another, don't you?
7 and Clover remained silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else, very far away.
We must go. We have very little time left.
Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were going. Their next destination was Mercury. It sat bolted to the wall near the stairs that led to the casino and the kitchen, between the 2 elevators. The Mercury card reader. Ta-da! Junpei stood in front of it with the Mercury card. 7 had given him the card.
I found it when we were checking out the shower room.
At least that's what he said. Junpei slid the card through the reader. The light on the reader turned green and made a tiny electronic noise. Now they were ready. Junpei and June had been chosen as the investigators, the reasoning being that they had been to E-Deck before and no one else had. As before, Junpei sent the elevator ahead to make sure the floor they were heading to wasn't flooded. As before, the elevator returned as dry as when it had left. Once it had been checked for water, Junpei and June stepped into the elevator. There were only 2 floor buttons they could push. C and bottom buttons. The rest were destroyed or did nothing when pushed. Junpei hit the bottom button. The door closed. Slowly, they began to move downward. Sometime later, Junpei and June stepped off the elevator into the bottom deck. They stepped off and saw that the hallway to their right ended somewhere between 20 and 25 feet from them. The hallway in front of them was a dead end. But not a regular dead end. Ah! This is a numbered door.
This is the 8th one we found.
There were 2 numbered doors on B deck near the central staircase. There were doors 4 and 5. There were 3 more numbered doors in the large hospital room. Doors 3, 7, and 8. Junpei and June had found another door on E deck. Lotus and Santa had found 7th on A deck. There was a 6 on the door on E deck, and a 1 on the door on A deck. 4, 5, 3, 7, 8, 6, and 1. And now door 2 stood in front of Junpei. There was only one thing it meant.
Do you think the next door we find?
Yeah, I think so. The next one's gotta be door 9.
Ta-da! Despite himself, Junpei felt excited. There was something about that excitement that frightened him as well. He did his best to put it out of his mind and headed back to C deck with June. Do, 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 do.
Alright, let's open these up.
The pieces of paper they followed up lay on the ground next to Junpei's legs. There were 7 of them, all told. They were written on paper pulled from Junpei's notebook, and each one bore a coded name and a door. Why they had decided to vote that way? They decided it wasn't fair to simply ask everyone at once. That would allow people to force others to go through certain doors. Well, that wasn't the only reason. Junpei had proposed the voting system, and he had a plan. It wasn't a plan he wanted anyone catching wind of, however, so he did his best to act calm and began to open and read the pieces of paper. The first one read,
Ace requests door 1.
Yes, I do. Would you like me to explain why?
No, we don't have the time for that, sorry. Let's keep going.
He opened the second one.
Next is Santa. He wants door 6. Yeah, that's what I wrote.
Junpei continued with the third, fourth, and fifth pieces of paper.
Clover wants 1, Lotus wants 2, and 7 also wants 2.
Eh? Wait a minute! There's no way I'm going anywhere with that elephant man.
No. There'd be no point to the voting if we let people change their choices because of stuff like that.
But I...
Just give it up, Lotus. It's not like I'm wanting to hang out with some exhibitionist grandma.
I'm not an exhibitionist.
So you're a grandma?
I'm wearing clothes.
Barely.
So? Last time I checked, that's not a crime.
Maybe. But what about common decency?
Okay, now we're getting a little nasty.
Nobody wants to have to look at a chick who looks like a half-naked raisin.
Wow. She's hardly a raisin. I'm sorry, dude. I'm gonna kill you. And they suddenly made out on the floor. Lotus's hair flared out like the mane of an angry lion, and she roared with a voice that shook the walls. With some difficulty, Ace managed to restrain her.
Junpei, I've arrived from below you. Read the rest.
Hurry! Can't hold her for very long.
Right.
Junpei tore his eyes away from the monstrosity on the floor and looked at the 6 pieces of paper. He opened it.
June wants door 6.
Yes. I don't really have a reason. I just felt like it.
Of all the papers save Junpei's had been read, he did some quick calculations in his head. People who requested door 1, Ace and Clover. This was the door on A deck, near the central staircase. People who requested door 2, 7 and Lotus. This was the door on the bottom deck, and could be reached by taking the elevator to the bottom of the ship. People who requested door 6, Santa and June. This was the door on E deck, and could be reached by taking the elevator near the central staircase down. It took him less than a second to run the numbers. He opened the 7th piece of paper and spoke.
Okay, the last one is mine. I want to go through...
Oh, we're making it up as we go. Let's see. Any guys want to vote in here? Hawk, you want to do the honors? You solved one of the puzzles. Every door has only 2 volunteers. Don't you need at least 3 people? Yeah, that is a good point, but apparently we get to go wherever we want.
Oh no, we're gonna make the decisions with the voting system and then we're gonna make any corrections after.
Probably. 2 of the doors will have nobody go through them unless you pick the proper door. Original voters will be able to go through anyway. I know, me neither. They'll probably adjust according to what we want. Alright.
6?
Let's try 6.
I want to go through door 6.
Junpei flipped through a piece of paper. It read, Junpei, door 6. Of course it did. He'd written it after all.
That's a problem.
June spoke barely above a whisper, but they all knew what she said.
None of these teams will be able to go through the doors they want.
Clover and I chose door 1. Lotus and I chose door 2. There's not enough people to open a numbered door, however. Digital routes don't match up either.
We've got similar problems. June, Junpei, and I want to go through door 6. And our digital route is 5. If we're gonna open that door, we need a 1.
Damn. What are we gonna do now?
What are we gonna do?
Junpei crossed his arms and did his best to put his thoughts in order. The others followed suit, but with little result. Eventually, Clover broke the silence.
Why don't 7 and Lotus go through door 1? With me.
Her voice was cold and flat, as was her voice, and I sucked at that. Thank you for telling me, game, but her logic was sound.
7 and Lotus looked at each other.
Yep. First problem resolved, Ace spoke up.
What about me?
Isn't that obvious? Wasn't one of the teams just complaining that they didn't have a 1?
You mean I should join Santa's team?
Clover nodded, her face still cold and emotionless. Her attitude and posture could not have been more different from the energetic girl only a few hours before. No one seemed ready to contradict her. Her response was understandable, given the horrible situation she had found herself, but even so...
I understand. I will go through door 6 then. If we do as Clover has suggested, we can all pass through a numbered door. No one will be left behind. This seems to be the most reasonable solution.
Okay.
7? Lotus? What do you guys think?
I don't have a problem with it.
Me neither.
Alright then. We're good to go.
Good to go!
At last, June and That's fuck. Because their names are so similar. Jeez. At last, Junpei and the other 6 had managed to separate themselves into 2 teams. Clover, Seven, and Lotus headed to A deck, where door 1 was, near the main staircase. Junpei, June, Ace, and Santa, however, took the elevator to E deck. The ride to E deck was a silent one.
Alright, let's go.
Santa's words jolted them to action, and they stepped out of the elevator into a long, straight hallway. Run! Dun, dun, dun. Before long, they arrived in front of the door 6. One by one, they put their palms over the red. All right. With a soft electronic noise, it authenticated each of them. Ooh. The door opened, and all at once the 4 of them leapt through it. Fortunately, the dead was located easily enough. This one had been placed quite close to the door they'd entered through. They gathered around it quickly and hurriedly placed their palms on it for authentication, one by one.
Ellipses. It stopped.
Yes, it stopped. The countdown had ceased, but Junpei's heart was still pounding in his chest like a frantic, thunderous drum. It felt as though it might shake itself up and out of his throat. He'd been through the doors 3 times before, but repetition had not dulled the experience. He was not anxious to find it dulled, however. He hoped to be free of the ridiculous game long before that happened.
Alright, let's go.
With that attempt at good humor, Junpei took a deep breath and began to walk.
Good humor as in high spirits.
I see. He jogged down the stairs at the end of the hallway and found himself staring at a large door. It was a heavy thing made of iron, and more than a little threatening. He took hold of the bar that served as its doorknob and shoved it down. The room beyond stopped him in his tracks. It was gargantuan and made entirely of metal. None of the accents of wood or tile that he'd seen in the rest of the ship. This room was purely functional but utterly tremendous.
Whoa, what the hell is this?
Santa got out a few words before awe stole the rest of them. The rest were too stunned to offer anything more than gasps. It was easily the largest room they'd seen, and yet it was somehow closed and oppressive. The ceiling was at least 2 stories high, if not significantly more. It was easily several hundred feet across and appeared to stretch the entire width of the ship. In the center of that gargantuan room stood a massive rounded building. Even from a distance, the sheer bulk of it was oppressive. Junpei could feel the room, the building, even the air pressing down on him. Junpei and the others were standing on the scaffolding that crisscrossed the whole area. The proper term was catwalk, Junpei thought, although that didn't seem particularly important.
Alright, let's head downstairs.
Nearby was a long iron staircase that made its way eventually to the floor beneath them. Oh, it's the boiler room. They moved around toward the opposite side of the massive building, following the catwalk. It's what feeds the engine to make it work. He hadn't said much when they walked, but as they approached the building, Ace suddenly spoke up.
This looks to be the steam
engine room, yeah.
The steam engine room.
So it makes the propellers go.
Yes. The thing that looks like a cross-section of something that I missed. Because my finger twitched.
You're trigger happy.
Do you see the 3 round doors near the bottom? Coal is put into those and burned, which heats the water, producing steam. The same thing that drives a steam engine. This one is simply somewhat larger. A mushroom.
Yeah, I think he was going to say, like, mushroom-shaped or something.
I see.
Even if Ace was right, the boiler was boiling nothing as they approached it. The entire room was silent as the grave. Suddenly, Jubei heard a noise behind him. He turned just in time to see June collapse to her knees. What the hell?
Hey, what's wrong? Are you alright?
He dashed toward her and wrapped his arm around her shoulders to steady her. It was then that he noticed.
You're really warm. Is your fever coming back?
Maybe she's rejecting the thing.
Yes. Yes, it probably is. But I'm fine. Please don't worry about me. I just need to rest and I'll be fine.
Her voice was weak and forced, and it said a great deal more than her words did. Jubei carried her to the nearest wall and propped her up against it. She let her head fall back against the wall, as if she no longer had the strength to support it, and drew a ragged breath. Her eyes were empty, as if she was having trouble focusing them, and even speaking seemed difficult for her. Jubei felt his hand ball itself into a fist and clenched tight, his knuckles whitening. He had to find a way out, and quickly. He turned and looked at Ace and Santa in turn. They might not have shared the depth of his emotion, but they certainly shared his concern. He didn't need words to express the urgency of their situation.
Alright, let's get started.
I'm not actually surprised if some of them get sick, because, I mean, they have a foreign object going through their guts right now. There's no telling what that's doing to them.
Hang in there, June. Gonna get you out of here real soon.
You don't even know how big it is. Enough to, like, do some serious damage. Ugh. He managed a small nod before leaning... Oh, sorry. She managed a small nod before leaning back to rest her head on the wall.
Seek a way out.
Alright, and...
That's true, Hawk, but then again, this is the game of a psychotic killer or whatever, trying to do all kinds of stuff to them. Maybe he just didn't care.
To which the comment sparking that was, true, though if made of an appropriate material, it shouldn't react.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. I'm just saying because people are going to watch this on YouTube and they don't see the comments.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's assuming that our psychotic
Psychotic
character actually cares what it's made out of. It's probably assuming they'd want to get it out of themselves pretty soon.
Well, it certainly has gotten its way through the intestine, so it's not a size problem. It's durable enough not to be absorbed by the stomach or else it would become non-functional, which doesn't say it can't be harmful, but it's pointing away from it.
And also, you have to kind of figure out what it's made out of. It's a device that's able to explode, so it has to be able to react. There has to be at least some components in it to work and move and combine.
Well, it does receive a radio signal,
yeah.
And all that really needs to be protected is the casing.
The casing, true. So, yeah, there's really no telling what's in it.
Hawk says, Zero may not care. You would think after spending so much money on making the whole game just so perfect, he would have at least spent a moment on doing so.
Possibly. Or maybe it has other functions.
Well, those are questions for next time, because we're going to be wrapping it up here today. So, thank you all for coming out. And hopefully we'll be able to wrap this all up tomorrow.
Dun, dun, dun.
Till then,
Tomorrow.
take care. Next week, sorry.
I got school.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.